How's it going, everyone? This is Miles with Windows Central Gaming, and welcome to the 47 episodes of Xbox Chaturdays. Today, I am joined by the greatest of all time, the best hair in the business, Jeff Grubb of GrubbSnax fame, of GamesBeat, and so much more. You probably know him from his competitive Halo playing on Twitter.com. How are you doing on this fine Saturday, my man?
I'm doing real well. Thanks for having me on, Miles. I appreciate it. This is always a good time. I'm glad we could get together. Me and you are gonna go see a hockey game real soon. I'm excited about that. But I'm even before that, I'm glad we could just hang out on the internet and talk about video games.
Me too. It's been a week. There have been a lot of developments this week. Obviously, we're going to be talking about Xbox's anniversary stream, 20 years of Xbox, a lot of Halo Infinite details. We have Halo Infinite multiplayer shadow dropping on Monday. We have folks like Jeff who got their hands on with the Halo Infinite campaign. We're going to be talking about the Game Awards, the nominees, the controversies, our predictions, and so much more. But before we get into all of that, I'm sure everyone here already knows, but let people know who you are and where they can find you.
Yeah, I am mostly on Twitter, Jeff Grubb on Twitter. It's where I put everything on there. I tweet too much, so yeah, it's okay if you don't want to follow me. But if you want to find my stuff, you can just go to twitter.com/Jeff Grubb, and that'll help you out there. And then I do a couple of shows myself, and you can get that on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/Jeffrey Grubb. If you follow there, you'll find our podcast as we go live, and we talk about like all the other places you can find it. But yeah, I appreciate it. We do a Last of the Nintendogs on Tuesdays, and GamesBeat Decides, our kind of general show on Fridays, and it's a good time. Me and Mike Minotti just hanging out, talk about games every week. So yeah, I appreciate it if you check those out.
Sweet. All right, we're going to dive straight into the meat of this. All right, Monday was the 20th birthday of Xbox. Everybody in the chat, give a happy birthday celebration to Xbox here. Before we dive into what was shown there, Jeff, I'm curious, do you have an Xbox story? Do you have an OG Xbox story? Were you there launch day? What was your vibe when not Halo, but the Xbox was released?
My vibe was still being a Nintendo fanboy pretty much. So I was like, I got to get the GameCube and I'm going to just play that. And hey, what's going on over there? That looks like fun. I wish I could get one of those too, but no, I'm just a Nintendo fanboy. I picked up an Xbox for Halo 2 and we played a lot of that at our house on Ohio State campus, just off of Ohio State campus, and played a lot of that. And it was a good time. My early memories of it are just like, hey, this thing is actually a ton of fun. And when I started like needing to pick a place to play third-party games, it was like, oh, they actually look significantly better here. And I feel like I'm getting more of my money's worth and stuff. And money, so tight back then. I was like, yeah, I just want to make sure I'm getting the best. And yeah, that's kind of what I associate with that original Xbox, is just this was actually the best place to play most games back then. So there was no Digital Foundry, but it was so easy. You could just tell by looking at it. Like, I remember here's the thing I actually associate with the Xbox. Prince of Persia, the prince has fingers, and all the other ones he has like meat mittens. On the GameCube and the PlayStation 2, you had like meat mittens, and it's like, oh, okay, I like fingers. I'm gonna go with this one. So I associate the Xbox with fingers, Miles. I think most people do.
Yeah, back in our day, next gen meant you had fingers. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. In my family, we had a hierarchy. I was the oldest. I had a younger brother and a younger sister. So as the most mature, I had the Xbox. The console catered toward the more mature audience. My sister had the PS2 and my youngest brother had the GameCube. Realistically, I played all of them the most because I was the biggest nerd in the family, but that's kind of how we set it up. So as a preteen / teen going into the launch of the original Xbox, I was all in on that edgy marketing. I was a skater kid. I was, watching horror movies too young, listening to metal, dude. I was like, Xbox? That is sick. Black and green console? Ooh, that's looking mean. So as a dumb kid, I was in. I was sold on this premise. I played Halo Infinite for the first time at a friend's house and then begged my parents, like, please get me this. And so my first two games were Halo Combat Evolved and Hunter the Reckoning, which is a all-time classic. I remember
I like Hunter the Reckoning quite a lot. That still probably holds up.
Yeah.
Actually, like we were playing some games over the internet using Dolphin, and Hunter the Reckoning's on there. And I wonder if NetPlay would work well with that, because I almost kind of want to play that again. And that'd be a fun way to do that.
I'd dive in with you.
Yeah,
in a second.
Yeah.
So yes, 20 years of Xbox. It's awesome. It's exciting. should make me feel old, but it doesn't, because I remember when Xbox was the new kid on the block and people
Yeah.
were speculating whether or not Xbox would, survive. Was Microsoft
Yep.
just trying to buy their way into the games industry? Was this just some gimmick? So we're here 20 years later, and one of the first things they showed at this Xbox anniversary stream was actually a documentary about the basically history and creation of the Xbox division. And I've heard some kind of funny stories about how this is pretty much a bastard child of Microsoft. Like, they were not even in the Microsoft office. Like, they weren't even in the same building. Xbox was down the street away from the company, just kind of doing their own thing, going rogue, trying to convince Microsoft, which at the time I think was the biggest company, that, hey, let's try gaming. Let's do it. We have some ideas. We have some games. Let's make it happen. So, are you interested in this Power On documentary at all?
Oh yeah. I think that it shows a lot of like faith in what they're doing now, that they can look back and just say, let's talk about everything. Let's talk about all the good and all the bad, and we can like put that stuff in perspective now, because we've learned from so much of it, and we recognize those lessons, and we could show these bad things that happened, Red Ring of Death or whatever, and kind of the Xbox launch being kind of like awkward now at this point.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and we know that, we recognize that, and we've learned, so we can just say, hey, this is what happened, and this is why it's kind of funny. This is why it's important to the Xbox history. This is a part of us. We acknowledge that. That's like, it takes them being in the point where they are now to make a documentary like this, and that's what makes me excited, because I was watching those clips, and it seems like they're going to do warts and all, and that's very cool. That's the story that I definitely want told. And they've definitely talked about how it was the black sheep for a really long time, but it's still nice to kind of get like reminded of that, and have them come out and say, yeah, there was a chance, there was a Microsoft that didn't want the Xbox to ever happen, and the fight it required to actually make it happen is worth telling and retelling. And then here are the other fights we've had since then. And I can't wait to kind of dive in. That's the kind of thing that I think more companies should be doing, is preserving their own history and doing it in an open and honest way.
I love that. I want to know, the struggles. I want to understand how this came to be, what the hesitations were for Microsoft, because we hear these anecdotal stories, we hear the rumors, so and so said this, so and so claimed this, and it's nice. It would be nice to have, stories on how this all comes to be. The scale bound stuff, something that happened this week that we can touch on real briefly here, is that, Hideki basically came forward and apologized about how Scalebound happened, about what happened with that project. And for a long time, there was this, idea that it was Xbox's fault. Xbox was making Platinum do something that they didn't want to do. So Xbox ultimately was to blame for Scalebound being canceled. And so for him to come out all these years later and basically kind of put some of those conversations to rest is interesting. And I'm interested to, hear Xbox's side of the story and have this piece of history and legacy with Xbox, because for a long time, PlayStation and Nintendo has been around a long time, but PlayStation specifically hasn't been around that much longer than Xbox in the grand scheme of things.
Oh.
But in the conversations and the discourse for a casual audience, PlayStation is more of a legacy brand than Xbox. And it's cool now that Xbox is acknowledging its history, celebrating it, and trying to make sure that the world understands that Xbox is an important part of gaming history and will be an important part of gaming's future. So yeah, I'm curious to see what the hell that is.
Yep, same.
Next up, Xbox backwards compatibility. This was no secret for anyone who was on Twitter, because a lot of store listings showed that a bunch of backwards compatible games were added and there were prices updated, but I don't think, or at least I didn't expect, 76 new titles to be added to the program. Huge batch of new Xbox backwards compatible titles, 30 with FPS boost. So were there any games on this list that you felt are worthy of going back to?
50 Cent Blood on the Sand, baby. Yeah.
Yeah!
Here we go. Here's I think that is actually not on digital stores, so you still have to track down a physical copy, which is a challenge still. So that's nice, but it's not ideal. I don't know. It was a pretty good list. I'm pretty happy with it. I still am like noticing the things that are absent, like NBA Street Volume 2. I'm like, man, I wish they could just make that one happen. It stinks. And I'm trying, like, it has to be music licensing, and they just don't want to deal with those headaches. And I'm like, man, that would just be fantastic. If we get that, that would be perfect for me. I wouldn't need anything else. But yeah, I'm glad that they did this big drop. It's a bit sad that it's like, oh, this is it. We're done. Because it feels like, man, maybe you could just squeak a few more out here and there that we like really still want. But I think they recognize that the effort it would take from both sides is so high that they're probably not going to be able to get over those hurdles going forward. So this is it, and now just focus on the technology to improve the way these games run on everything. And that's still, I'm glad that they're like, FPS boost is not done. They didn't say anything about that. So I'm like, okay, I'm still pretty excited to see what they're going to do in terms of this technology.
Yeah, it was a bittersweet announcement because the program, when they first revealed it, it came at a point when Xbox One had a lot of issues. The Xbox One launch was not that far behind the backwards compatibility program. So there was a lot of, legacy Xbox 360 players that I can fairly say went to PlayStation, went to other platforms because of those issues. And this was kind of their way to show that they're committed to, not only their longtime fans, but to preserving these games. And it's been awesome to see them commit and consistently add titles to this program. Otogi 1 and 2, they did it. They did. Nobody. Have you played those games, Jeff?
No. I know they have their fans though.
Nobody played those games. Nobody played those games. I talked to so many people. I say Otogi as an original From Software Xbox exclusive, and they say, "What? What are you talking about?" I was like, "There's two of them. They made two. They did one and they did a sequel." So Myth of Demons and Immortal Warriors are both on there, and they're digital, so you can go in the store, you can buy them. I own physical copies, but I went in the store and bought those because it was so awesome to see those games listed on a modern console, and playing Otogi 1 on my Series X is wild. And
I do think those would be the games that like get the biggest like shine from this. Those would be the ones that people are going to go back to the most, I think, or at least people that they haven't played before. Like they'll get the biggest bump in terms of their profile because of this, and that's good.
A lot of people don't realize that From Software has been around since like 1986.
Yes,
From Software
games for a long time.
They're old. They're older than me. And a lot of people kind of associate them with Dark Souls, which is pretty new in the grand scheme of what they've been doing. So they've been pumping out amazing games for a long time. And if you have any passing interest in kind of Japanese folklore meets Devil May Cry action, check out Otogi. It's a weird time capsule, and it kind of shows how committed the original Xbox was to doing weird games and taking weird risks with games. And it lost that in the Xbox One, but coming out of the gate, I think a lot of people kind of discredit how experimental Xbox was with their exclusives. So yeah, the program's ending. It's done. They're not going to be adding any more games, which means we won't get Castlevania Curse of Darkness, which is another weird relic of kind of that history and that period. It came at a time when a lot of the Castlevania 3D games weren't good. And it was. I think it was an underrated Castlevania. Did you play Curse of Darkness?
I actually did not. I have not played Curse of Darkness, and it would be nice to actually go back and play that now. I might do exactly that. Yeah.
It's Symphony of the Night in every way. They took Symphony of the Night and said, we're going to make this 3D. We're going to make our main character look like Alucard. We are going to add the familiars. We are going to make this game exactly Symphony. So if you like Symphony of the Night but with worse controls. There you go.
That's what I want. That's what I'm always asking for. So yeah, let's do it.
Oh man. And the grand finale of this Xbox showcase here. And I'm honestly a little bit bummed that this leaked, because I had heard about the Halo Infinite multiplayer Shadowdrop. I got back from vacation. It's the day I got back from vacation. My supervisor's like, "Hey, make sure your Monday's clear." I'm like, "Okay, what's going on?" He's like, "There's a chance that Halo Infinite multiplayer is just going to be available on Monday." And I was like, "What? Excuse me?" So obviously it was confirmed. They came out and said Halo Infinite multiplayer beta is available right now. Everyone can play it. It's free to play. If you're on Xbox or PC, download it, play it not right now, today, I guess technically. So when you heard this, because you were tweeting about it ahead of all of this, along with many others, what was your thought when you first heard that 343 Industries was just going to launch multiplayer on Monday?
My thought was that makes a lot of sense. That seems about right. And honestly, even before I was hearing them, there was always that really strong possibility that this is how you roll out the marketing for Halo. You were doing some tests. You obviously have the capacity to do more tests. At a certain point, though, those tests go so well that you say, hey, we could just launch this game as a beta and roll that right into the release and kind of do it as a soft launch and have it just be like, it's a free to play side of the game. So let's get a bunch of people excited about Halo because they're playing the free to play game, and then that's just going to get them primed for the campaign and for maybe getting Game Pass or whatever. Let's go for it. Like there's nothing stopping us from doing that. It makes a lot of sense. And so when I started hearing about it, it's like, okay, so they are going to try to do exactly that. And there was some back and forth about it, whether it would actually go through. And apparently there were some like slight development difficulties, and yet they were able to overcome them, get it launched. And boy, that was a smooth launch. And they had everything went so well. It's like, wow, that's really impressive. So clearly they had things in place. They knew what they were doing. They were ready for this. And I was not that surprised, just because it made so much sense.
Yeah, a lot of us wanted Halo Infinite, the full release, to be on Halo's 20th anniversary, just because of how perfect the timing would be, just how perfect the celebration of everything would be. And then when they announced that December 8th release date for multiplayer and campaign, the anniversary dream died. But they still managed to celebrate Halo and 20 years in a tangible way by dropping that multiplayer. And shadow drops are so hype. Everyone, it doesn't matter what it is. I remember getting stupidly hyped for Dead Rising 3's 4-player arcade mode that they added, where you could like dress up as Mega Man X. And that was a shadow drop. So this little like $10 add-on for Dead Rising 3 shadow dropped at E3 one year. I was like, let's go, let's do it. So no matter what it is, people like a shadow drop. And then for them to shadow drop Halo Infinite's multiplayer, that is awesome. And it shows how kind of tuned in this team is when it comes to these marketing beats, because they have been hammering Halo. Every week there's been an update. Every few days there's been a new little teaser trailer. Halo has always been known for its excellent, incredible marketing. Halo 5, people praise the hell out of that marketing campaign, and then on the other hand criticize the hell out of it when it's not related to the game whatsoever. But
they're doing a little bit better this time around, it feels like. So I'm proud of them this time. It's still very exciting, but a little bit more honest to what's happening in the games, for sure.
Yeah, so I was super excited again. My schedule was busy. I was coming off vacation. I was coming off Elden Ring coverage, and I was handling the multiplayer review for Windows Central. So on one hand, I wanted it. On the other hand, I was like, I'd be okay if it didn't drop on Monday. But I've put 28 hours in right so far, at least. I've put in a long time in the multiplayer. So what I want to talk about now is our impressions of Halo Infinite's multiplayer. And like you touched on, this is the smoothest multiplayer launch we've seen this year, hands down.
Yes.
For any big scale multiplayer
ever. I mean, it's one of the smoothest launches ever for a game this big, with a game this many players. Again, free to play. Peaked at like 275,000 concurrents on Steam or whatever, and that's just Steam. So to have that many people playing and to have so few, like there was no server queues or anything like that. It was just working. And I'm sure there were issues. I'm sure people have, but not on the scale that we're talking about here, where Diablo doesn't work. Diablo 3 just breaks when it launches. New World just you have to wait for hours to get into the game. There's nothing like that, and it's unbelievably impressive. Kind of, I kind of got over the idea that this sort of thing was possible, and now Microsoft out there. This is almost like the best advertisement for Azure ever. Like, hey, if you are making a game and you want to launch it, make sure it can work. Well, here, look what happened with us. Just come to us. We can help you out. It's a real big advertisement for what they have for their backbone, and I do think it's going to help them sell that to some more developers going forward.
I'm in the same boat, Jeff. I thought the dream of a smooth launch was dead and gone.
Yes.
We would never have a smooth multiplayer launch ever again. Because of all Battlefield, Call of, every other multiplayer-centric game this year was not working properly day one. I have not disconnected or had a single matchmaking issue at all. I was there the moment, the second that I could download that and play it, I was there. And I was I'll use this, and I don't use the word often, flabbergasted that I was able to play Halo Infinite and that's it. I was able to play Halo Infinite, and
Yeah, right. Yeah.
there
I
was
mean,
no but.
matchmaking was working. Like you could get in with your friends, your friends party could get together real easy. You could have 12 people or more or whatever, and massive or like friend groups going in and playing games and big team battle, and it all just works. It's I mean, I know that like, a lot of people, I feel like, oh, that's a low bar. Of course, this stuff should work. I don't know. I've been through so many multiplayer launches now that I expect them not to work. So when it does, this again, flabbergasted is the right word. I agree. Just impressive stuff.
Yeah, because with Battlefield, you straight up had to turn off crossplay if you wanted to play the damn game.
Yes.
I gave up on Battlefield because I tried to matchmake for a couple hours and it just was so inconsistent. I was like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm uninstalling this. I'll come back in a couple weeks. And now that Halo Shadowdropped, yikes for Battlefield. I don't know when I'm coming back to Battlefield. I don't have a huge desire because I just don't want to deal with it. And now that we know it's possible, Halo Infinite has come out of the gate and proved to us that it is possible to have a smooth launch. I wonder if a lot more people are going to be critical of these big multiplayer games.
Yeah, I'm. It's definitely going to make other games look bad, probably for quite some time. I still expect multiplayer games to have issues going forward. A lot of it probably comes down to having an extra year to like they were going to launch it last year. Now you could spend a year. Obviously, you're going to improve the way things feel and stuff, but spend a year optimizing it, making sure that the server network code is all in place and as good as it possibly can be. And again, they have some pretty good engineers when it comes to that sort of stuff. So I'm sure they were able to really rely on that stuff. And they ran a lot of tests. Those tests were, I'm sure, useful as well. And now we're here, free to play beta, just one of the biggest launches for Microsoft ever. It's feels like they're hitting on all cylinders. It feels like you know what it is? Microsoft's no longer doing half steps. They're not. They are no longer like, oh, I think maybe we'll try this. It's like, no, Halo multiplayer is going to be free to play, and we're going to go all out, and it's going to be everywhere, and we're just going to go for it. And Forza Horizon 5 is gonna come out, and it's going to be on game. All our games are going to be on Game Pass day one. We're just going to go for it. We're going to embrace these strategies whole hog and not hold back. And when they do that, like it just feels much more confident, and people are embracing it, and it's working well for them. I'm impressed by their strategy working.
Yes, it is really exciting to see a company with people joke unlimited money and resources use that money and resources to make games that are great, make games that launch well, and make games that people are excited about. There's been a lot of energy surrounding Xbox right now. I'm going to give a quick shout out to the 202 people hanging out with us right now. If you are digging the show, hit that like button, share it out. If you are new to the channel, we are live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. I'm also going to get to a couple super chats here. First up, Mr. Joanna Dark, who's been a member for 13 months. I've been doing this for 13 months. My God. Hello, Miles, the GOAT, Dompier, and the best hair in gaming, Jeff Grubb. I am excited to spend my afternoon hanging out with you guys and the community. Appreciate that, man. Always.
Thank you.
Greatest track record in Chaturdays history right there. Mr. Joanna Dark. Give the man a round of applause. Jeremy G says, Grubb hype. Got some Grubb love in here. Love to see that. Faisal 007. According to Digital Foundry, it seems Elden Ring Xbox Series X version is badly optimized. Did you play it on Xbox and did you notice anything? Did you play Elden Ring at all?
No, I didn't even ask to get into it. I was just like, I'm gonna leave them alone. I'm gonna leave them alone after the headaches I've caused. So yes, that's how I felt about it. I'm like, I'll just buy the game when it comes out.
I'll just for all the trouble, I'll just buy the game. And
I'm just gonna buy it. Yeah.
I did play it on Xbox Series X, and I will say that the frame pacing for the open world was not that consistent.
Right. That is what they have said, right? On Digital Foundry too, where it's like, hey, the frame rate, the average frame rate, fine. The frame pacing, which is like how long each frame is on screen, varies quite a lot, and that can cause some visual distortions and stuff, and kind of look ugly.
So I'm hoping that gets ironed out because in some areas it's a lock 60, especially when you're in the interior dungeons. But the big scaling open world when you have all these trees and creatures, I was getting frame drops consistently. It was not running at a lock 60 by any means. Thankfully, with this test being several months from launch, they have some time to kind of fine-tune that for each of the platforms. But yeah, Digital Foundry was spot on based on my experience with it. It was I won't say disappointing in terms of performance, but it wasn't the locked 60 dream that I had going into this launch. So, game still looks gorgeous though. Oh, From Software is one of the
Pretty
greatest
game.
developers when it comes to color. The color balance of that game, every frame is just. Okay, Nick Turbo says, Jeff, where is my Ballin' Book review?
Listen, you come babysit the kids, Nick, and then I'll get back to reading your book. Stupid book. He sent me the Ballin' book I have to read for the Patreon subscribers over on our Discord. So I tried reading it. Turns out it's a very bad book, Miles. Turns out, surprise, that it's not very fun to read. Who could have guessed? Who could have thought that was possible?
Jeff, why did they make this? Why did they make a Ballin' book?
It is. Listen, there's no logic or reason to the universe anymore. Things just happen. Chaos is in control. And I went back and played that game a little bit during Extra Life a couple weekends ago, maybe 2 weekends ago, whatever it was. And that game is still so bad. I hate it so much. And then to have to go read a book about it, and it's not like any of it makes sense or relates to any fun in the game, because, well, there is no fun in the game. And then it's just bad. And so I'll try to read some more of it. I doubt I'll ever be able to finish that book though. So sorry, Nick.
You are a trooper. I respect your commitment.
Tough.
I have not touched that game. I have not touched the book, and chances are I never will, unless I am forced to. I'm strapped to a chair and I'm forced to survive. Then I will play it.
I have a video up of me playing it. You guys can all watch it there. Don't touch it yourselves. Nick Turbo says, read it to the kids. That's abuse, Nick Turbo. That's abuse. I could go to prison for that. So
I would file the report myself. Okay.
Yes, exactly. And you should. Yes, you have to do your responsibility to these children. I understand.
Big Fresh 37 says, should I hold out any hope they'll start selling 50-cent Blood on the Sand digitally? I just went to 3 stores to find it physically with no luck. I would not hold out hope. They have not historically ever added a game to the store when it hasn't been listed initially.
It would probably take too much work to, like, that's just what's happening with all this stuff. It's at a certain point, the people that would have any interest in making that happen either don't exist anymore, or they are too busy working on current deals to go put a lawyer and negotiators on old deals. And that, that doesn't mention the fact that you still have to have people on Microsoft's side waiting around to talk to those people. It costs everyone money to do that stuff. And it's just at a certain point, you're not going to be able to get past that threshold anymore. And that's where they're at. That's why they're stopping it.
That being said, if you own a copy of 50-cent Blood on the Sand and have no interest of playing it, capitalize. I'm seeing people sell that ridiculous 50-cent fighting terrorists game for over $100. So make that money.
Sell that thing. Now's the time. It's high tide, everybody. Get that out there.
Get it while the getting's good. Hunter Smith says, the Hunt the Truth podcast leading up to the Halo 5 launch was so cool. Honestly, the concept deserves a spin-off game. Yeah, that marketing for Halo 5, I was feeling it. I was so ready. I know people really like that podcast. Yeah, I never listened to it myself, but I know people were really into it. Question from Nick W here. He says, what are your thoughts on the Fear series? I recently just finished Fear 2, and it was all right. Did you ever get into Fear? I played a little bit of one of them on 360, I think, or something. Maybe it was PC around that time, and I didn't play much of it. I know people also really like those. There's people who swear by the Fear series, and that's not. I just never got into it. I'm same. This is going to be shocking to a lot of people because I'm kind of known as a big horror nerd, and Fear was one of those 360 series that everyone loved for the horror elements. I played 1, 2, and 3. I didn't beat a single one of them. There was just something about that formula of tactical shooting mixed with kind of, I guess, obviously Japanese inspired, The Ring-esque horror, that it didn't click for me. I didn't find it scary considering I was a SWAT army man kind of thing. It didn't really do anything for me. So again, I'm with you, Nick. I think it's all right. I don't think it's bad. I understand why people like it, but I just didn't really like that formula. I'm going to get to just a couple more super chats and we're going to move on to the next topic. God damn it.
Lay it on me. Lay it on me. Let's do it.
All right. Don't subscribe to Game Pass says, ask Jeff Grubb, where's Kojima /Xbox at the Game Awards? liar with the Pinocchio emoji.
Yeah. I think I've said repeatedly for months now, it's not going to be at the Game Awards.
I'm
I
calling
feel
the
like
cops, Jeff. What's happening here?
Yeah. This is that weirdo that follows everyone everywhere. This is the guy that like on Spawncast show. I'm sure he'll be there tonight. It's like X Trash beats or X Trash is beaten by PlayStation. And he changes his name every week because he keeps getting banned, and he just keeps giving people money to say stupid stuff, and it's the best. Like, yeah, give me money if you're gonna like it's the best. Like, yeah, I'm going to monetize your stupidity. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's not going to be at the Game Awards. It's too early. They're still negotiating. Even if the negotiations were to end now, it would still be too early to like set stuff up for the Game Awards, I believe. So, barring any last minute miracles, it's not going to happen at the Game Awards. They're still negotiating though. That deal's likely to be kind of something where even when they finish it, like they're going to probably want to make sure they announce it in the right way. So who knows? Maybe at next E3, but maybe they might wait until they have something to actually show instead of just trotting Kojima on stage. We'll see.
So don't subscribe to Game Pass. Thank you for the support. Appreciate the super chat. Big Fresh 37 says, does Multiverses look better on video than you thought it would from the on paper description? It does for me. Yes. I think all of us kind of memed on the Multiverses leak and Shaggy versus Arya Stark versus Batman. It sounds dumb. It sounds really dumb. I will play any platform fighter. So regardless of how terrible it looked, I was going to be there day one. But after we saw it in action and after we saw them talk about dedicated servers, rollback netcode, I was like, all right, they're at least taking the online component of this seriously. They at least want to make sure this game feels good and plays well. So, hey, let's see what happens. Who's going to be your main, Jeff?
Yeah, I probably will main like Shaq. Actually, I like Steven Universe a lot, so maybe I'll do Steven. I don't know. It looks like a lot of fun actually. It looks a little bit like they're slowing down the speed a little bit, so maybe it's a little bit more easy to comprehend for kids and for old men like my brain. So yeah, I'm gonna check it out. It looks like fun, and I'm gonna treat it like a party game, like these games are supposed to be. So I'll be fine with it. I'm not gonna take it too seriously. It looks like the game's kind of not taking itself too seriously, and then yet, like you said, taking the online stuff and treating that like it's important. And that's a nice combination where it's like, well, we're gonna have fun here, but we're gonna make sure the tech, the backbone of it, is in place to make sure people can have that fun, and that's cool.
Yeah, are we going to have a competitive fighter where it's Rick and Morty versus LeBron James? Is that going to be the world we live in?
It seems like that's going to happen. Yeah, I mean, that's what I heard. The first one of the first DLC fighters is going to be LeBron James from Space Jam. So, yeah, that seems totally possible. There's just so much weird possibilities that they could do here because it's so much more diverse than what Nintendo can offer. But with Smash Brothers, it's like it's exciting for what they do with Smash Brothers. But here it could be like, yeah, Tony Soprano fighting, Bugs Bunny, and that is bizarre. And I want to see what happens. I want to see if they could do that.
Yeah, please. I want a long tail for this game just simply for the fact that the possibilities are so outlandish. We are living in a world where nothing is off the table in terms of crossovers, and I'm here for it. I still want Xbox to make their platform fighter, but in the interim, I'll take WB. I'll take whatever HBO series they're going to throw out, and let's see what happens. Let's see what happens here. All right, there's a few more super chats, but I'm going to move on to the next topic here, or continue our topic, and I'll circle back to these. So, Jeff, Halo Infinite multiplayer. At its core, what do you love? What do you love about this experience?
Yeah, I love that it leaned into what makes Halo Halo, and that's like the higher time to kill, the needing to really think about each engagement as its own long-term fight that can last anywhere from 10 to like 30 seconds depending on what happens, and just really making that feel not just, but it's chaotic, but it's also there's so almost like a dance happening there that you don't get in a lot of other shooters that have that lower time to kill and stuff where you just you see the guy, you shoot it, you pop them, they're dead, and that feels good. But this also this feels good, and it leans into it really hard. It's like, we're just gonna be Halo, and that was really working for me. It's like this is different than what we're getting from a lot of other games right now, and they're not ashamed of it. They're clearly proud of what they are, and you can tell that when you're playing it. And then the other thing is, like I mentioned earlier, that the big team battles, to be able to have like everyone on our Discord who's online at the same time, being able to play together in one match. You don't get that from a lot of stuff, and it's a free to play game, so everyone's gonna have access to it. It's like, man, we're always looking for games to play together, and now everyone can just play this at the same time. That's really cool stuff. Like, you're not gonna get that from a lot of other games, and that mode is also very fun. It's very different than the 4-on-4 mode, so it's like, okay, yeah, there's also some variety here. It's just it feels good. The weapons are feeling great. I think that they really honed in on whatever like they just spent the last year, like especially on the multiplayer side, which was probably closer to being ready than the campaign, and they just polished everything up, and it really feels like that when you're playing it. So I'm really enjoying myself. I put in about 10 hours so far, playing when I could with the kids sick the last week. I'm like, I'll get an hour in while she's taking a nap, and yeah, I was able to do that, and it's been great. It's been a lot of fun.
It's been really cool to see a lot of people who don't normally jump into the big shooters, quote unquote, at launch, really embrace and share clips and share these moments of Halo. And I think for me, Halo has always done an excellent job of having really great, really memorable moment to moment action. And I think Halo Infinite perfectly encapsulates all of that. So every time you play a match, you have something that you can remember. Even if it's, you getting beat down in a specific way or you beating someone down in a specific way, you always have a memory attached to a match. Yes. And you don't really, I don't really get that with a lot of shooters. When I play Battlefield, there are those big Battlefield moments for sure. When you're in a jet, when you fly your ATV into a helicopter, moments like that are obviously memorable. But in Halo, there's always at least one every single match. And I think that's really important to make everyone feel good. Even if your KD sucks, even if you're getting destroyed in terms of raw KD, you can do something that feels good and makes you feel good. And that keeps you kind of coming back to the loop, I feel like.
It's cool to see that emergent gameplay really still be the core of what makes Halo multiplayer work. And whether it's a gun falling on like a treadmill and flying up into the air and stuff like that, and there's physics possibilities happening there where I could try to, and they show this in the trailer, grapple hook that gun and bring it back to you. And it's like, okay, there's a lot of stuff that could happen at any one moment because the systems are so dynamic. And that leads to a lot of that storytelling that you're talking about. Like, I did this thing and then the game reacted in this way and I wasn't expecting it. And then I reacted to that. And that's, you do get that from like certain battle royale games where there's like a lot of space for stuff to happen because there's like space in between the fights, and you end up doing weird things and coming up with ideas and then executing on them. It doesn't happen so much in arena shooters, but it is happening a little bit more here because again, it's those physics really just being a huge part of what's going to happen next, and that's cool.
The physics are such a core part of what makes this amazing. When you throw a grenade, if somebody else throws a frag grenade at you, they can bounce off each other. I've never had that happen in a game ever.
Yeah, and that's such a core idea of like what I want. I want there to be so much possibility that you could never predict what's going to happen next, and having stuff like that where these grenades are physics items. They're not just like little JPEGs flying out that are going to explode and cause problems. They are going to be able to hit each other and bounce back to you and do other kinds of crazy stuff, and that is fantastic. That's the kind of stuff that really can make a game like this last a long time because you just don't know what's going to happen.
You pick up the spanker. You think you're going to just destroy this guy, blast him with a rocket, kill him. He turns around. He has a repulsor. He fires that rocket back at you and kills you with it. Like moments like that are why I really have been having such a great time with Halo Infinite's multiplayer and why I think so many other people have as well. The vehicles as well. I've always had the stance that nobody does vehicles better in multiplayer than Halo. And I think Halo Infinite is another shining example of that. Battlefield, ton of great vehicles. Jets, helicopters, ATVs. Generally speaking, they don't feel as good as any vehicle in Halo Infinite to me. Getting in the Ghost, getting in the Warthog especially, getting in the Mongoose, having that kind of physics impact to everything there's just so much weight to everything you do in this. And it's huge. It's going to be a huge, huge deal, I think.
Yeah, and you like when you're driving the Warthog and you could feel like the virtual gyroscope trying to keep you upright as you're going off a hill. Like it doesn't feel like it's cheating. It feels like there's some mechanics in there trying to keep you from tilting over and fighting against the physics for you. And there's something like tactile to that really works as well. And then it makes you willing to take more risks driving around because you're like, I probably won't tip over. And then of course you do end up still finding ways to make it happen, and then all hell breaks loose because you're flipping over in the middle of a gunfight, and you have to like try to jump out and deal with whatever madness you've caused. It's so much fun. It is. I've never really jived with a Halo shooter this much, and so it's like I wonder if like they're doing even more, or if it's just the right time, right place, or just a combination of everything. And I think it is kind of like a combination of everything. It's awesome that so many people can play. So almost always my friends are online playing right now, and that's like that helps. So that's going to help a lot with stuff like this. You don't have to convince that people to go spend money on this. That helps. That's so crucial. And then once you're in there, it's just so easy to find the fun, and yeah, and they've done a really good job at it. It's, if this is all they released this year for Halo and the campaign didn't come out, it would still, I think, be in the game of the year discussion for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah, it's we're gonna get into the game awards discussion here in a little bit, but yeah, I think obviously the timing for this is a little too late, but if this had shipped a month earlier,
for my awards is what I mean, for Jeff Grubb's game of the year.
Yes, Jeff Grubb's game, yes.
Yeah.
Speaking of the vehicles and the physics, shooting a vehicle does not always blow it up. Like there's not a static amount of damage that happens and then the vehicle explodes. You can blow out wheels. So there's been times where I've blasted out the two back wheels of a Warthog and they're just going. They're just burning those rims on the ground and driving away. I'm like, come on. While it's frustrating, it's also so exciting to see that level of detail and damage. Watching a wasp get shot from the sky, land on someone and kill them. Like, it's... Yep. Again, so many moments, the moment-to-moment gameplay, in my opinion, for Halo Infinite is the best of any shooter that I can honestly think of off the top of my head. I can't think of a game that nails that. Every single moment I'm playing the game, I am embraced with the game.
Yeah, and it's not because like like in Call of Duty, it is you're gonna spawn and you're immediately in the fight. Like there's no time to think. You're just that is how they engage you. And here it is, you sometimes you will have to run, but like you're gonna see 3 or 4 things along the way. You're like, all right, am I going to take those weapons? Am I going to try to get that vehicle? Am I going to try to roundabout here? And it's like a nice halfway point between Battlefield and Call of Duty, where it gives you that space to be creative, and yet once you're in the gunfight, it's just as engaging as any game could possibly be. So that 30 seconds of fun, it might never have been better than it is right now. So it's impressive stuff.
Oh, absolutely. 100% agree. Quick shout out to the 280 people joining us. If you are digging the show, hit the like button, share it out. If you are new to the show, we are live every Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern time. So Jeff, now that we've talked about what we love with Halo Infinite's multiplayer, are there any glaring issues or problems for you with this experience and this offering as it stands in the beta?
Yeah, there's a handful. I'll just say that I think they got the hard part right, which is launching a fun multiplayer game and getting it launched without a lot of technical issues. And so now that they've done that, they can easily address a lot of the complaints or a lot of the requests from the audience. And I think a lot of the requests are fair. Stuff like, let's improve the battle passes progression system. I want to win because I want to win when I'm playing in a match. But it would be nice also if I'm contributing to my team trying to win, that stuff still gets me XP. That just feels good. It's a long-term established thing now. It's kind of an expected baseline, and I would want them to focus on that and enable that. Now I think it's going to take them some time to do that, but I think they will. And then there's the modes and how you are going to engage with apparently there is a way to like make sure you're only playing Slayer if you just want to play Slayer, but it's not like one button where you just go and say I just want the Slayer playlist. They should do that, but then also they should probably start adding back in some other modes. People in the chat mentioned stuff like SWAT.
People want that SWAT.
Yeah. Right, exactly. And I think they'll obviously get around to that. They're going to keep releasing content for this. They're probably holding some stuff back while they're like, hey, we have this base stuff. Let's start here, and then we'll keep refining SWAT in the background, and we'll release it when we need like another boost or whatever. And that's fine. But I would like to see like a roadmap on when that stuff's going to happen and get some other stuff in there. And then really, I do want to see what they're going to do that's new. And maybe they'll have to wait till Forge mode comes out before they're like, let's let the community experiment and then riff on that. But I bet they're working on some like internal like stuff that's like a riff on Battle Royale or something like that they might drop themselves. And I would like to see that. I don't know if that's going to happen anytime soon. Who knows? But I would like at least like to get like a hint that something like that is coming. Not that I'm like complaining. I'm like, yeah, we just got this feast. I'm happy with it. I'm not necessarily like looking to the next meal already.
More, more.
Yeah, more. But but I do think that there is room for them to try to do more still. Yeah, so that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah. The overall package is tight. Tight is a good optimistic word for the launch package of Halo Infinite. Everything is there, is fine tuned. Everything that's there feels really good. Obviously, the progression system has been the dominating complaint for everyone.
Yes.
I don't think anyone is happy with the current progression system. They made some changes quickly, which was nice. They tweaked some of the challenges. I have to say the launch challenges were some of the most obnoxious I've seen in a free to play game. I had one that was get 25 shock rifle kills. That would take me a month. It would take me a straight month to get 25 shock rifle kills. And then I'd have to be that obnoxious guy who every single game, no matter what the objective was, no matter what the game mode was, I'm running over, I'm getting the shock rifle, I'm trying to get kills. Sorry. I don't get anything for winning, so I don't care if we win or not. I just want shock rifle kills. So there's some fundamental problems there with that distracting from the overall gameplay, I think. The new challenges are better. There is a better sense of progression. Still, obviously, a bit of a grind. Still designed to push swap tokens, push XP boosters, stuff like that. Which, again, we've seen that in free to play. It's not a new concept. We can have a debate a separate time whether or not that's evil or egregious or whatever. But I was expecting a little bit more from Microsoft, as we've seen them fumble with Gears of War or Gears 5. Everyone hated their battle pass progression system at launch. Hated it. It was so egregious, so annoying. And then they took all this backlash and they adjusted it and got it to a place that's really great. Same Master Chief Collection. Everyone praises the seasonal progression there and how that works and how the challenges are tied in. So for them to seemingly ignore both of those at the launch of this makes it especially annoying. It doesn't make the game bad. I don't hate it. You still gain levels, but in a game where player expression is such a huge part of what they've been advertising, what they want this to be, everyone looks the same. And everyone's going to look the same for weeks and weeks and months because climbing through the ranks of this battle pass is such a slog right now. And they're committed to adjusting it. They've made the quick, easy changes that they can, and they said that they are, planning to roll out some bigger changes that will take some more work. So I will be curious to see what that looks like. But you touched on this earlier. I want XP when I win a match. I want XP when I'm MVP. Even things as simple as that. Give me that, please. It's a little thing, but you get that feed. We're all video game addicts at some point, and we're feeding that addiction. All right, if you don't feed me, I'm going somewhere else.
Yeah, we're on the wheel. We recognize we're little hamsters, like pressing the button or whatever. But we are. We want to get the food pellet to come out the little chute, at least every once in a while. So, we've accepted Skinner boxes as a core to progression in online multiplayer games. It's unwise to ignore those lessons at this point. Let's go back and embrace it, especially as a free to play game where you want to keep that engagement high. That's going to help keep that engagement. I would be even more engaged if I was on that treadmill, and I want to be. So
just give me just a little something. Because ahead of all of this, they came out and they said, the battle passes won't expire. And I was like, awesome. They're listening to, they understand a lot of the complaints. They told us, we don't want this to feel like a second job. I was like, okay, awesome. They seem to understand a lot of the issues with the free to play model and keeping people engaged and keeping people, feeling rewarded while playing. And then I see this battle pass at launch and I'm like, dude, I don't care that this doesn't expire. It's going to take me 6 months. It's going to take me 6 months of playing every single day to complete this. Come on. Sure, it doesn't expire, but wow, that felt so bad. Unbelievably bad. But again, that's me just being that hamster on the wheel, wanting that little nugget. And what made it, especially frustrating as well is the fact that when you were in the game, it felt so good. Everything felt so good. The moment-to-moment gameplay, the action, getting kills. You were like, yes, I'm the bet. And then the match ends and you're like, I didn't get anything. And you play three.
And that's not even how I look at it. I look at it when I'm done with a long-term session and I look how much progress I made. I'm like, what happened here? I played for so long and it feels like I didn't do anything. And I'm like, I don't even look at the challenges. It's just not the kind of player I am. I'm never going to look at them. I'm never going to go try to seek them out. And maybe if they put them right in front of me, I look at them. But they might be doing that. I just don't notice them. That's not how I'm going to play the game. I'm just going to assume the stuff I'm doing is contributing to that stuff. And when it's not, when you get done with like a 3-hour session, it feels bad. And they should, so yeah, they should want to do something about that.
Yeah. Sea of Thieves, another prime example of a game that rewards you for every single thing you do. What I love about the Sea of Thieves pass, whether you buy the premium version or the paid version, is you are rewarded for playing the way that you want to play. You could sit on a dock and you could fish for 25 hours. Every fish that you catch, you are getting experience for that. You are ranking up in your pass for fishing. You want to go just sail, literally just sailing the ocean. If you want to just cruise around on your boat and sail the ocean, you're getting XP for that. So it's rewarding everything you want to do. And I don't like these challenges fundamentally in any free-to-play game because it tries to force you to play the game a specific way, or a way that you wouldn't normally play. Sometimes I just want to go into Team Slayer and I just want to kill people. I just want to use my shotgun, use the bulldog, shoot people, and that's it. But this game is constantly forcing me to play modes I don't want to play, or in this case, you queue up and hope you get the mode. I've had a total control challenge for a week now because I haven't had a single match of total control happen. So yeah, more playlists and better progression. And then I don't have complaints. If you fix those two things, I don't have any complaints with Halo Infinite, and that is rare. That is a rare treat.
They're in a really strong place that this is the only thing that we're like, the obvious things that they can change and probably will change and probably we're already thinking about changing. That's what we're asking them to change. It feels like they're in a pretty privileged situation where it's going to be a pretty good couple of months for them as they do announce stuff like that, and they could just rely on this being a really solid game otherwise to keep people excited, and that's going to work. That's going to be a big part of like keeping this game around. Is it's just very fun to play.
Yeah, as part of this Halo Infinite multiplayer compliment sandwich, the core experience is amazing. We're harping on progression. We're harping on, options for playlists. But like you mentioned, in the grand scheme of things, those are such trivial issues compared to a lot of other games we've seen that have fundamental things that are going to take months and months and months to fix. And people just have to deal with it, knowing that it's not an easy fix. At least with progression, it's an easier fix. They have the tools and the means to adjust that rapidly and kind of tweak things based on feedback. Playlist, another thing that is probably a pretty easy fix in the grand scheme of things.
Yes.
So
yeah, and probably something that like was like they were always going to hold that stuff back. It's like, hey, at launch, we just want it to be kind of simple, funnel you into the fun right away. Don't think about it too much, and also like let's not try to worry about like certain things having more server than the rest of this stuff. And as stuff starts to like calm down, they'll be like, okay, now let's open this stuff up, give these players more options as they're more familiar with stuff. That just feels like that's onboarding, and I get that. So yeah, they'll respond to that pretty quickly, I think.
One quick question before we move on to the campaign is, do you think they are going to add any modes and maps for the full launch? For day one, are we going to have any additions, or are you expecting what we have in the beta now to be the content package for the holidays, essentially?
I think this probably takes them through the holidays. I think that's where I would lean. I guess I wouldn't be too surprised if they're like on December 8th, they're like, okay, now here's some new stuff for the multiplayer as well. But at that point, it feels like, let's focus on the campaign. I guess it's not too much of a, they're not competing against each other too much. They're different things and if you're in the mood for one, you're going to play the one, and if you're in the mood for the other, you'll play the other, and that's just going to be how it goes. They're not going to be able to lure you away from the campaign if that's what you want to play. So, but I still think just overall that this will probably take them through the holidays, and then early next year we'll see probably a pretty significant drop of new stuff, and or at least a shift in how they present the stuff that they have. So it feels like it's a little bit more opened up in terms of how they present like the playlist to you or whatever. So yeah, that's kind of how I see it.
Yeah, I'm on the same page there. I'm expecting, the possibility of maybe one map being added in addition. Like, beta's over, here's one new map.
Yes.
Outside of that, though, I'm not expecting a ton of additions from now until the end of the year. And then with them shipping the game, I assume and hope that they're taking some time off to enjoy the holidays with their families and decompress from years and years of development. And then, maybe January, mid-January, we start getting updates on kind of what's coming down the pipeline. Because as we saw, the season 1 is extended until May, so they're obviously giving themselves some time to adapt and adjust and kind of figure out the cadence of everything here. I'm gonna get to some super chats real quick before I pick your brain on the Halo Infinite campaign.
Yes, that's good.
Mr. Joanna Dark asks, is Halo Infinite story more emotionally impactful than Halo 4 thus far? What story DLC would you love to see in the game to flesh out the lore?
Yeah, I think that it's they're going in a slightly different direction where they're just it's more subtle. It's more about themes. It's more about getting vibes off of Master Chief and the way that he deals with situations, and kind of simplifying things a little bit. The lore, all that stuff's still important. The person that you're fighting, the leader of the Banished, is a direct result of, like, I think something that happened in Halo Wars 2. I'm not too familiar with it. But overall, it's like when I go encounter something with Master Chief and Master Chief responds like, hey, this is my duty. This is what I do. I fight this fight. I'm always going to fight this fight. And, even if I'm getting a little bit tired of it, I'm not going to let that stop me. That I don't have the right to be too tired of this. I'm going to keep fighting. And that's a cool feeling to get off a character, especially when there's other characters for him to play off of and stuff, with that new Cortana and the pilot. The pilot wants to go home. The new Cortana's like, hey, I'm not actually sure what's going on. Like, there's some mystery here. And I guess, yeah, you could go fight this fight if you want, but we have to get some questions answered. And so that stuff is really good about, like, giving you hooks to the story. Like, the pilot's telling you don't need to actually go fight this fight, so why are you doing it? And Master Chief's like, that's what I do. And then at the same time, you could tell there's like this subtle need for him to get answers about what's going on with Cortana, that his old Cortana, and the new Cortana, like, just keeps that stuff front and center. Well, like, there's a mystery here, go discover what's going on, and it's working for me super well. There's not a ton of cutscenes. I've only played through what I'm allowed to play through in the embargo, so I don't know exactly how the story's going to progress. My hunch is, as you get through the, like, big dungeon structures at the end of like the map chunks, the open world map chunks that you're in, you'll get like a big cutscene at the end of that will take you to the next spot. You'll get some lore dump as you have conversations with the pilot and Cortana at that time, and then you'll go back and do more exploring on your own, and then there'll be like environmental stuff that's happening. We can talk about more of that as we talk about the game. But yeah, that's kind of how I would answer that question.
So fundamentally, you feel that the story beats that you've experienced are engaging.
Oh yeah, yeah, and I think it is because it's more subtle and because they're simplifying things and making it about themes. I think all that stuff is exactly what you should want from this game, from these games. Now, at least that's what I want, and I think there's gonna be some people who are super heavy lore masters, but I think even them, like, Halo 4, Halo 5, like whatever you got out of those games, I think if you are into Master Chief and want a Master Chief story, you're going to be really engaged with what's happening here. If you are someone who I understand this, because this is how I am with Star Wars, you want the universe to expand a little bit. You don't want it to always focus on one character exclusively. I'm not sure how well it's going to be at that, but I still think that this will be a satisfying story, even for those people.
Okay, beautiful. Edward King says the gameplay of Halo multiplayer is just perfect. The only issues that I hope are fixed are match XP, playing individual game modes, add more modes, and properly mix and match Spartan customization. Yeah, we are on the exact same page there.
Agreed.
Harjeet Chani, it would seem Halo Infinite might be a very, very highly rated game, at least a 90 meta, and may actually be Game of the Year. Are the Game Awards too early? We'll talk. We're gonna go into a whole conversation about the Game Awards. Don't you?
I'll say the game will at least be considered for many other Game Awards. So yes.
No matter what, if it's not at the Game Awards, it can be
right
in your Game Awards. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's going to be considered at, like, all your favorite websites. Like, yeah, it'll be in a lot of conversations, and those conversations are better anyhow than just watching someone get a trophy. So yeah, totally.
Yeah. Harji Chani, one more super chat here. Should purchasing the Halo campaign give you access to some or all battle passes? I guess we can quickly talk about monetization here with Halo, because if you look at what the experience offers now, you have two completely separate entities almost. Now it seems like they're going to be in the same launcher, whereas before it seemed like they would be two separate launchers. But you're essentially paying $60 for the campaign, and then the multiplayer is a separate thing that is free. So your paid portion, that $60 portion right now, is just the campaign. So a lot of people have wondered, is that a fair price? Blah blah blah. Where do you stand on that pricing structure?
I mean, if you don't want to pay for it, just get Game Pass. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not that like, yeah, just do it that way. You have options, or don't buy the game. That's fine. You just play the free to play thing. Um, I think that's pretty fair. I think if you do buy the game, or if you are subscribed to Game Pass, I think you should get access to a battle pass in the online multiplayer. I don't know if you should get like the full, like big beefy battle pass. Maybe there could be like tiers to it or something like that. But I think you should get access to a little bit like faster progression if you are paying in some way. I agree with that, and I think they've said that they might do something if you're subscribed to Game Pass, and give you something in the game, but they haven't shown us what that is so far. Like, you're not getting anything extra in the game right now if you're subscribed to Game Pass. The only way to like get on that premium tier is to buy the premium battle pass. So I've done that, and I was happy to monetize live on stream. So I think that I think that's going to work for them, and I think that's why they'll keep doing it that way mostly. And they're going to have to treat it like it's its own thing, because it is going to appeal to a lot of people who aren't even thinking about Game Pass right now. That the goal is to get them on Game Pass eventually, but even if they get them on Game Pass, Halo as a free to play multiplayer game over here kind of needs to ride and die on its own a little bit, and so they're going to think about monetization as a solo thing for quite some time, I think, before they try to worry about how we tie this into Game Pass. And that's fine. That makes sense.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed that they didn't give like Game Pass Ultimate members like at least the first Battle Pass as a way to get them introduced to the concept.
Yeah.
Especially, I'm sure they've seen a boon with Forza Horizon and some of the other holiday titles being leveraged by Xbox Game Pass. But yeah, again, I think they're just trying to figure out, like, outside of Game Pass, what's the attach rate here? Is this price point good? Are people happy with this? And I think if they launch it with Xbox Game Pass, it might kind of confuse what those numbers are. And I think they want to have a really solid grasp of, is this a fair price? Are we giving people enough value before they start doing, Game Pass perks? They've said we'll get cosmetics. And we'll probably get some colors or some armor skins via Game Pass Ultimate. And that's something, but the Battle Pass is obviously the big thing that they want to sell you. And they want you to buy that Battle Pass. So they're going to make sure they do everything in their power to make that Battle Pass feel like you're getting your money's worth.
Yep, totally. And I think see Shizno in chat saying it's still a beta. That beta term is kind of marketing. That's just them kind of like, they're like, oh, it's a soft opening sort of thing. But really, they're selling stuff. You could go and buy the full Game Pass. You could spend hundreds of dollars on this game right now if you wanted to. So they know what they're doing. They're just like, this is basically the launch. It's the real launch, and I think it's fair to speak in those terms when we're talking about it right now.
Yeah, I saw some people like celebrating the fact that everything carries over from the beta, and I was like, they are charging you money. It better, better transfer over to the full version. Like,
right. This is that. I mean, it's just the name. It's just a word that companies use at a certain point to be like, hey, treat us a little bit with kid gloves when you're thinking about like what this is. But really, we're launching the full thing, and we'll happily take your money. At that point, they're just launching the game. I mean, God, Fortnite. How long was that in beta? Fortnite Battle Royale was in beta for 3 years or something like that.
Fortnite was in beta, and there was $60 retail copies that you could buy at Walmart.
Yeah,
like that is exactly the most. So yeah, the beta thing is, it's a technicality. Here. All right. Yes. As soon as you're selling something, you're not in beta. You're not in beta anymore. You're launch, baby. Really. Let's go. All right, Jeff. Let's talk about the Halo Infinite campaign. So, when the gameplay was first revealed at E3 2020, obviously there was a lot of criticism regarding the graphical presentation of what was shown. We got some glimpses of what an open world Halo experience can look like briefly. But a lot of people focused on the issues with the presentation of the game. For a very long time, well over a year, Xbox has been very quiet and very hesitant to show us anything. They haven't wanted to show any gameplay from the campaign. The only updates we got for a long time were basically cutscene related. Now, there was a period of roughly 1 week where folks like yourself, Jez for Windows Central, did our preview, where you got to go hands-on with a good chunk of Halo Infinite's campaign. Yeah. So when we got our first hands-on with the multiplayer flight, I think that completely eliminated anyone's concerns regarding Halo Infinite's multiplayer. Once people saw it in action, once people played it, they're like, this feels great, this is going to be great. and I was waiting for that moment for the campaign. I was hoping they would just do a full-on demo, so a lot of the loud
Yes.
noise could be silenced. But this is a cool way to give certain people a glimpse with it. So I haven't played it. So what I want to know, Jeff, is as someone who's not a big Halo guy, not traditionally a big Halo campaign guy, what did this do for you? What did Halo Infinite's campaign do for you?
It made me very happy to play a Halo game, which is not necessarily the way I've always been. I think Halo's fine. I don't dislike it, but I've never been a Halo guy. I've played some of the campaigns and think they're okay. I've just never been too blown away by them. This is kind of like I think the ideal place for where Halo can be and where it should be, and kind of delivering on promises of what the series made, like even before it ever came out. And that's kind of the analogy I would make here is like they are looking back to Halo 1 and saying, if we could make that game today, what would we make? And that's what they've delivered here. Yeah, it really, and it feels that like I think Gene Park over Washington Post did a really good job saying it's like the silent cartographer of the game, and really kind of expanded on into an open world in a real way. And it's the truth. It really feels that way. And really the reason that works is you still have, like when you're in combat, when you're in a fight, it's still Halo. It feels like that Halo 30 seconds of fun again, where you're just figuring out the best ways to use your weapons, and a clip dries out and you're like, should I reload or should I switch to my other weapon? You're like, well, I took down the shields, I'll switch down to this other weapon, take him out, and all that stuff still feels fantastic. What they've done here is now they have added this open world where you can explore in between those segments, and so it gives a chance for stuff to breathe. And I think the best example I have is the world sort of builds up this anticipation as you get ready for a fight. And it happened when I was I explained this in another podcast last night, but I'll repeat myself here. I found a thing on a map. I'm like, I'm gonna go there, and on my way there I found another big fortress, and the fortress was run by this big grunt guy, this big brute, who saw me coming and got on the loudspeaker for this fortress and was like, the Master Chief is coming. We're going to take him out. We're going to kill him. Everyone prepare. And you see like the fortress begin to put up its walls and stuff. And like its gate rises up out of the ground and tries to block you out from going in the easy way. And they call in reinforcements, and a ship flies over your head and drops off a bunch of more brutes or whatever. And it's like, it was just so like, okay, the world has reacted to me like running up, and it's like, man, this feels like it's going to be a fight. It's like that anticipation really does build up, and you can't help it. Like, I'm like, okay, I was going that way. You guys are okay. You're spoiling for this. Let's make it happen. I'm going to go in there and I'm going to do it right now. And it's so exciting. Then you go in there and you play Halo, and it's still like this really great Halo combat. It's to me, those ups and downs, like the giving it room to breathe, giving it room for that anticipation to build, then going in and executing on the Halo combat in the way it's always been good, is so satisfying. It's so well done that I was really impressed, really blown away. And then I just think overall, like there's cool stuff happening on the map. It doesn't feel like Far Cry, in where there's dozens of icons. There's a few icons, and then you're going to find stuff that aren't necessarily labeled on the map on your way there, and you'll get distracted. But there are cool stuff on the map where it's like the place I was going when I got distracted by this brute calling me out was it was a guy with a signature weapon, and he's just sitting over there, and he's protected by a bunch of other enemies. And I'm like, oh yeah, I want to go over there and get that weapon so that I can have it in my inventory and use it for the rest of the game. And that's how it works. You go over there, you take him out, you get the signature sword from this one guy, you put it in. Now anytime you go to like one of your forward operating bases that you've captured, you can go there and get it out of the thing and use it for the rest of the game. And it's like really satisfying to do that, and then go to what is basically a big, almost Zelda style dungeon, almost still very much Halo, but a Zelda style dungeon at the end of this chunk of open world. And then once you beat that, you get on the helicopter, you go to the next chunk of open world, and now you have the similar options, but like in a slightly different way. At least that's how it seems like they're going to present it. And it's really, really working for me. Again, what's happening here is they're delivering on the promises that they made with Halo before the first Halo ever came out. And to me, that's very exciting. And that's what I think. I'm like, this is what I always wanted Halo to be. And I think a lot of fans are going to feel that way too. Now, I'm coming to it as someone who's never loved Halo, but I think people who do love Halo are still going to really enjoy it as well. And that's what the response I've seen has been, that as well, from people who love Halo. They in the preview section here, they seem to really like it as well. I'm like, so, okay, I think it's working for everybody, and I'm hoping that this game can maintain this level throughout. And if it does, it's going to be a very special game.
When I first played Halo Combat Evolved, and I think a lot of people who first played it when it launched, we all had that moment when the Warthog drops from the sky, the Pelican drives in above you after you've
Yeah.
cleared this fort. The Warthog drops down, you get in it, you drive, and you see the scope of this world. I remember
Hmm.
thinking, this is the biggest game I've ever played. This game is huge. Just look at these huge open areas. And they've been talking about this being a spiritual reboot for a long time and how they want to kind of capture the feeling of what made Combat Evolved great while still, catering to a more modern audience. And open world concerns some people. I got really
Yes.
excited about the gameplay that we saw during the first reveal. Even with the graphical issues, I was excited about that gameplay because of those sandbox possibilities. You touched on this briefly, comparing it to Far Cry. A lot of people have been concerned that this will have the Ubisoft open world formula. Your experience is that it's not a lot of meaningless side quests so
No.
far. Okay.
No, and it's yeah, it's very optional, and you get to choose whether or not you engage with it, and I think that adds some importance to the decisions you do make, and that stuff all really works. And it's just it's not like all the stuff is meaningful really in the end. That's the big difference. And it contributes to the sense you get of like what the themes of the game, which is like Master Chief is alone fighting this war by himself, and he feels a responsibility to go out and do this stuff, and yet like you don't have to, like he doesn't have to go do any of these side quests, and yet when he does, he's faced off people who are afraid of him, and it builds the character, it builds the world, and it's a lot of fun. And I think that the thing with Far Cry, I think a lot of people worry about is it a lot of nonsense off to the side? Is it just sort of like feels samey? And that's not been my experience so far. And it's been so I've been pretty happy with it.
Yeah, speaking to Jez Corden while he was doing this preview for it, he echoed a lot of the same sentiments. He initially he kind of told me he had some concerns about the open world and how it was presented early on, and then he came back an hour later and said, "Nah, I'm stupid. This is awesome." Like, and
Yes.
having Jez Corden, he's an infamous Halo hater. I know he likes to
Hmm.
stir the pot and just whip up a little drama, exaggerates his Halo hate, but he hasn't been into Halo. He just hasn't cared about Halo. So for him to come out and say that this is a special game and that the open world feels great and he wants to explore an open world Halo game, and then to have folks like yourself and so many others. I haven't seen a single negative
Yeah.
preview of the Halo Infinite campaign. And
Right.
it's interesting because there was a lot of concern, criticism going into this. So again, 343 taking criticisms to heart, taking concerns to heart, and making sure that what they're offering with Halo Infinite not only respects longtime fans, but also creates an experience that hopefully new players can dive into and appreciate.
Yeah, I think another good example is just in like something like Far Cry 5. I know they addressed this in Far Cry 6. It was like kind of nonstop enemies finding you in the open world and stopping you from doing exploring. And this game only does that every once in a while, and it feels much more impactful. And again, it's like, oh, a ship flies in over your head and drops some people down, and then now you're fighting the ship and you're fighting the characters on the ground, and it feels epic. And then once you take them out, you're going to be able to go explore for several uninterrupted minutes, like a significant, like a half an hour without like running into anyone else if you want to. For the most part, you might run into like small bands of enemies. You can take them out quickly. But it's like if you want to go explore, you're going to be able to explore and find stuff. And the map seems to have some fun secrets in it, and it's not about finding loot. It's not about crafting. You're not going to be hunting animals to like build, like a fur suit that's going to protect Master Chief better. It's not. None of that's here. It's just like it's fun exploration. You're finding interesting stuff to go fight in the world, and then you're going to go do the Halo combat, and it's going to be great.
Okay, Jeff, but is this or is this not the Breath of the Wild of Halo?
Yeah. So, uh, I think it doesn't play very much like Breath of the Wild, except for like in that relation where it's much more about exploring in the same way that Breath of the Wild was, and it's not about it's not about the loot and stuff like that. But it more the best analogy. The reason I use Breath of the Wild is because it just feels like that was the mindset that 343 was in when the Legend of Zelda team was making Breath of the Wild. They clearly looked back at the Legend of Zelda 1 for inspiration. They're like, if we were making that game today, what would it be like? And so they made Breath of the Wild, and that's what happened with Halo Infinite here. They looked at Halo 1. I think they looked specifically at Silent Cartographer, and they're like, hey, if we're gonna make that today, what would it be like? And it's so it feels like it's Master Chief's Breath of the Wild moment. It's not necessarily this is Halo Breath of the Breath of the Wild. That's what I mean there. So yeah, that doesn't mean there's relation. They're both open world games, and you're going to find some similarities. But it's like taking from a lot of open world games in the ways of how it actually plays. I think the best analog in that direction, if you're like saying what game does it play like, it is Metal Gear Solid 5 of the Phantom Pain. That's the one it's like the most like, and that's a great news too. That's another, and that honestly that game's on a lot like Breath of the Wild too. So yeah.
So is it fair to say that this team has successfully transitioned the Halo formula into an open world model, at least based on your limited experience?
No, they have succeeded at that. Whether they've succeeded at making a game that continues to ramp up and feels like a full, satisfying experience from beginning to end, and is it going to be a 90 Metacritic or whatever? That remains to be seen. Who knows about that? But in terms of transplanting the Halo gameplay into what is effectively a real open world and maintaining the legacy and the soul of Halo in the process, to create a foundation of an open world where they can build out on any number of directions in the future. They've 100% succeeded at that. This feels like the correct, right future direction for Halo, and it's like they pulled it off, and they should get credit for that no matter what. And then if by the end of the game, if I'm like, oh, it didn't stick the landing or it kind of fell apart near the end, that's fine. I'm still very impressed by the fact that they nailed this part of it. And if this is what they have, if they do a Halo Infinite 2, if they do release more content as part of their 10-year plan, I don't know how they're going to do it. Whatever they do, though, it'll be like if they're building on this foundation, that'll be good because they can do so much more with this, and it's in a really strong place. So yes. Yeah.
Awesome. For me, that's incredibly exciting here. That's what I wanted. I was never opposed to Halo taking a more open world approach. I was really excited about the possibilities. Again, I'm one of the people who's been very critical of Ubisoft's open world formula because I feel like it is artificially inflated. The value and the meaning of a lot of these quests aren't exciting. They're not worthwhile. It's a means to
by numbers too, right?
Yeah.
Like they're like, okay, we need a mission where you're like catching a field of drugs on fire, and we're gonna play fun music in the background, and that's gonna be in every single one of these games. And we're gonna have the one where infiltrating one base is gonna feel a lot like infiltrating another base. Maybe we'll do one on the cliff, and maybe we'll do one, on the beach, and that's gonna be the difference. But yeah, exactly. But here it feels like they're being much more, for a lack of a better term, much more Spartan about it, in terms of kind of like let's have some gaps in the world where you are just going to sort of wander a little bit, and maybe there'll be something interesting on the way there, or maybe it'll just be like something drops out of the air and you have to fight it, or maybe it's just going to be like the path between one area and the next, and you don't know, and now we can have the world react to you, like I said earlier in that earlier example, and all that stuff is super effective at building what Halo is supposed to feel like now, and it's working for me. My Xbox Series X is broken, keeps crashing on me. They're sending me a replacement, and it's a bummer because all I want to be doing is playing this game. And we did the preview, but it's with the full version of the game. So I could go right now and play this game to the end, and I can't because my Xbox Series X is crashing every goddamn 10 minutes. So yeah, I'm like I'm very frustrated. I'm like, I'm going to set it up on the Xbox Series S while I wait for them to send me the X. So just so I can keep playing it because I'm that into it. Right now, no idea what I'm going to rate it. No idea where it's going to end up on the Game of the Year thing for my personal list. But I would be very shocked if it's not at least in the discussion for the top 10, I think. So that's where I'm at with it right now.
Oh, you get me excited, Jeff.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah. It's kind of unbelievable that this is where we're at, right? I mean, last year they delayed it and no one was like too excited. People had a lot of questions, a lot of skepticism about like delivering what that game was going to be. And now here we are after not seeing it like in any real way that entire time, getting a chance to go hands on with it and being really impressed with what they've delivered. It's like, wow, I was not expecting this to be the end of this story. It was, I kind of always expected something of a hot mess or just a disappointment that just came and went. And I think no matter what, that's not what we're ending up with here. We are ending up with something that is at the very least very interesting and a very like bold take on what this series can be, and that is exciting.
It's been such a dramatic lead up to this launch. There have been so many passionate conversations, so many, doomsday takes on the future of Halo, and the basically the capabilities of 343 as a developer. People have, pointed to Halo 5, pointed to Halo 4, saying that, 343 Industries has never captured the feel of Halo the way that I remember it. And what we've seen with the multiplayer and what you're describing with this campaign is, I feel like this is Halo or 343 Industries saying, yes, we get Halo. We love Halo. We understand Halo. Here's what our future of Halo looks like. We know why you love Halo. It's the same reason that we love Halo. It's the same reason we're making a Halo game. We're not doing it for nefarious reasons. We love Halo. We're passionate about Halo, and that's why we're here. And I think everything that we've seen and heard so far is just basically a love letter to what has made Halo such an important franchise to so many people. And I'm excited. December 8th.
Yeah.
December 8th is one day before my birthday. Let's go.
All right. Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. That'd be a good. Mike Minotti always reminds me that is his birthday. So he's like, that's the most important thing happening that day. And then Halo. So I'm like, okay.
Sure, Mike.
Okay. Yeah. A couple other quick things. This game feels like it's meant to be played single player the first time. So if you're someone who always played co-op, I would urge you to try to play it single player, because that feels like the canonical experience. It does seem like it's going to be a lot of fun co-op, but it feels like it's going to be sort of silly fun, where like you get to explore that possibility space even more, and you're going to be ignoring sort of the those reactions that the world is doing to you as you're playing, because you're just kind of shooting this shit with your friends. So I think that's going to be I wish it was here at launch, but I think it's fine if you're going to play it single player the first time through. Yeah, and then yeah, I don't know. I'm just pretty excited for everyone to get their hands on it. I can't wait to see what other people think.
Ooh, I'm glad you brought up co-op, Jeff, because I was wondering why the hell they would have an embargo for Halo Infinite's campaign previews on Friday. They had the multiplayer Shadowdrop on Monday. I'm like, slap that in the middle of the week, capitalize on that hype, let's go. Why is this Friday? I thought that was weird. And then, obviously there's the glowing previews of the campaign. Everyone's loving the campaign. And they're like, yeah, by the way, it's probably 6 months for co-op. Sorry.
Yep.
So they had said, season 2 is the target for co-op. And I was like, okay, cool. And then they had said, 3 months are our goal right now for seasons. We want to do 3-month seasons. So everyone's like, okay, cool. It's a 3-month delay for co-op. And then when this multiplayer beta dropped, I noticed that season 1 went till May. And I was like, so does this mean that now co-op is coming in May? And, I didn't say anything out loud. I was just being a cynic and saying, okay, they're probably delaying it further. And then, yeah, Joseph stayed in an interview and said, season 2 is still our target for co-op, and then Forge is likely coming later. So another delay-ish, you could say, for co-op and Forge.
Definitely.
So I'm glad that...
I think Forge is exciting, though, because I think if you... if they make they could take any one of these open world chunks, they're about the size of a PUBG map, like a what is it, like 8 kilometer by 8 kilometer or something like that. It feels about that big. If they open any of that stuff up to Forge and just say, hey, go make your wild battle royale spin-offs on one of these maps, there's some real stuff that could happen there. Those maps feel good already. There's a lot of cool stuff, kind of nooks and crannies to explore. But if you just let the community go wild on that, I think that they're just going to stumble across some awesome battle royale spinoffs themselves. And it also gives me the suggestion here that the developer themselves, 343, is probably thinking about using these maps and reusing them in interesting ways for the multiplayer down the line, and that would be very exciting. That's what I was thinking about when I was playing. Okay, I'm playing single player. It'll be cool co-op. It'd be cool if there were 100 other Spartans on this map right now, and I was having to try to outlive them. That would be cool too, because there's just some cool spaces to make stuff happen. So, that's all just speculation, but just looking at it, it all seems to fit. It's all there. All the pieces are there. It's just going to take them having the resources to turn that into something else.
Yeah, the community has always been so creative with Forge, and even with very primitive, very limited tools, we've seen people make amazing maps and amazing game modes. Game modes have been created in Forge that have essentially come into mainstay versions of future Halo games. And hearing about what Forge is looking to do with Halo Infinite, it seems like it's going to be massive. It's going to be that kind of Fortnite creative mode where people just really go all in and make some wild stuff. So that's exciting when it comes to the tail and giving me a reason to keep coming back to Halo. I'm too lazy. I'm not going to go in and make some ridiculous battle royale mode or make some crazy custom map, but I will 100% go check out somebody else's thousands of hours of work.
Exactly. That's how I feel too.
Gonna get to a couple quick super chats here before we transition into the Game Awards and the conversation regarding Game of the Year. Harchi Chani says, my man Rand gets snubbed for Jeff? What's up with that? Jeff doesn't have a million. Just kidding. Great show and
Eat it,
chat
Rand.
about Halo. Let's go.
I'm
Don't
coming
worry.
for you.
I'm getting Rand in the hot seat next week. Don't you worry.
Yeah.
Rand will have a chance. Cade Forever says, Jeff, is the forest biome the only area to explore in Halo Infinite at launch?
I don't think I could say one way or the other. I haven't played far enough into it, but I wouldn't be allowed to say. So let's just say, who knows?
Who knows? Brian Hopkins, the countdown is on. Sounding like a great experience with plenty of classic and new gameplay. Sounds great. All right, Jeff. We got to dive into it here. The Game Awards, following the Shadowdrop of Halo Infinite multiplayer on Monday, Jeff Keighley had his own bombshell. He announced all the nominees for this year's Game Awards 2021. So, per usual, there's a lot of passionate conversations about games that should be nominated, games that are not nominated. Everyone has their own opinion on, who should be there. So, what I want to talk to you about before we dive into some of the more, passionate takes here. What are your thoughts on the overall nominees this year for all categories, not just Game of the Year, but across the board? How did you feel about the nominees this year?
I thought it's a pretty good list overall. I mean, Metroid Dread making the Game of the Year for me was like, okay, we're set there. And then I like all the rest of the games of the top 6 that I played. I've played, I've played some of all of it at least, and then It Takes Two I'm still gonna play, and I've heard nothing but good things about that. So I think overall it's a pretty good list. I'm not surprised Forza Horizon 5 didn't make it just because of the timing. The timing was going to be tough. Also, it's a racing game, gonna just face some challenges there. I do think it's one of the best games of the year, probably one of the top 5 best of the games of the year personally. But I'm not surprised that it just wasn't able to get into the game of the year discussion here. And then Hitman 3 for me is a top game of the year, top like 2, 3. So I would have liked to seen that, but that came out in January. Timing didn't help that either. That's just how it goes sometimes. So and also, again, it's a familiar thing. Like it's still in that lineage of Hitman 2016. So not surprised by that either. So mostly I'm impressed. I guess it's a pretty good list. Deathloop, It Takes Two, Metroid Dread, Psychonauts 2, Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart, and Resident Evil Village. That's a respectable list.
I agree. Overall, I was pretty happy with a lot of the nominees across all of the categories. Seeing games like The Artful Escape, seeing It Takes Two get so much love in so many categories, games for me that have been huge this year and important that I wasn't really sure where they would fall in the conversations. Seeing Pokemon Unite in the discussions, let's go. Yeah. Some of those, I feel like oftentimes those best mobile game categories, to me, often feel like a little bit of a throwaway. Like there's a lot of games and they're like, I haven't heard of this, I haven't played it, or it's just the obvious choice. So it seems like across the board, it was, a pretty stiff competition in all categories. Game of the Year, again, there's a case to be made for all 6 of those games that were nominated. It's not my personal 6. Here in a little bit, we're gonna go into our personal 6 here, but I could see a case being made for all of those games. So I think generally speaking, the picks this year were really impressive, and generally speaking, it really solidified how incredible 2021 has been for gaming. I've seen people say that this has been a slow year for video games, and I don't get it. I don't know who's saying that likes video games, because there are so many good games. Metroid Dread, again, I didn't expect a Metroid game to come out and be in the Game of the Year conversations. No, I thought that game would come out, it would be fine, people would like it, and then be solid, life would go on.
Fans, yeah, exactly. And no, it is deservedly in the Game of the Year conversation. So yeah, that's fantastic. That's awesome. I feel we're lucky to be in a year where we get something like that. So, and then if you just go a tier down from like what is typically award bait, right? Like, a God of War award bait, like that's the kind of thing where it's like it's supposed to go out and win awards. And we didn't get a ton of those this year. But to me that's fine. The award bait games have never really been super my thing. So I'm happy with like going down looking at stuff like the Forgotten City, and there's like games that a lot of people haven't played, like High Fleet, which is like this immersive sort of like game that feels like Dune, where you're controlling a giant ship on a planet and you're being hunted down. And you're controlling all these panels and stuff. To me, it's like, man, this is fantastic. This is got to be one of my Game of the Years for sure. And it's like there's stuff like if you are willing to dig, there's a lot of stuff to discover this year. It feels like a very varied sort of a potpourri of selections this year. Instead
Yes.
of like, yeah, instead of having like the one that everyone agrees is the top game of the year. And to me, that's almost better personally.
I agree. Like all of the games I loved the most this year were nominated in some capacity. Tales of
Mm-hmm.
Arise made the cut. Death's Door made the cut. Resident Evil Village in the Game of the Year discussion. Let's
Yes,
go.
right.
Horror oftentimes is just ignored because it's more of a niche genre realistically.
Mm-hmm.
So that for me right now, again, I'll spoil part of my list. That's my pick for Game of the Year. Resident Evil Village is my pick for Game of the Year right now. Of everything I've played this year, I beat Resident Evil 7 or Resident Evil Village 7 times. I cannot think of another game that I've ever beaten that many times that close to launch in my entire life.
Right.
So there was just something fundamentally special and compelling about Resident Evil Village. So there's been some, conversations regarding snubs and games that should have been. You mentioned Forza Horizon 5. My good pal Jez Corden over at Windows Central wrote an article basically pointing out some of the concerns and flaws of the Game Awards, how nominees are picked, the timing of everything. Basically pointing out that if you're snubbing Forza Horizon 5, which is the best rated game of the year, reviewed better than any other game this year, then is there genre bias? Are you just not? Are certain genres never going to win Game of the Year because that's just the way it is? So I want to have a broader conversation with you here, Jeff, about your thoughts on the Game Awards structure as it is. Do you have any fundamental concerns regarding the nomination process, the voting process, any of that?
I mean, sure, but it's like it's all that's kind of like understandable when you put it into context. Like this show exists to celebrate gaming, but actually the way it celebrates gaming is through commercials for games that are going to come out next year. It's all about like getting you hyped for what's coming up. Like, and the awards are an afterthought, and I don't think that's too harsh to say that. It feels that way when you're watching. It feels that way when we're voting. It feels that way. Like, yeah, it seems kind of obvious that this is about like putting on a show that's profitable, that gets people excited, and gets a lot of attention and gets a lot of eyeballs. And the way you get a lot of eyeballs is getting the next trailer for like Zelda or something like that. So,
Yeah.
So the idea of like, okay, well then that means the timing for voting on games can be kind of weird because you do a lot of that before even some games come out. So some games get left off, like they come out this year. Like, but even before that, the games that are technically eligible don't get a lot of time to like hit that critical mass, and that kind of stinks. It's not ideal, and it's a bunch of people voting during a busy time of year when they're worried about their own awards and reviewing a bunch of games, getting a bunch of new hardware and covering a bunch of crazy news, and now they need to stop and go worry about someone else's award show. And is that the best way to do that? I mean, no. I think the obvious answer is like this is not the best way to do any of this, but it's the best way. It's the best time of year to present a show like this if you are trying to get eyeballs by showing new games. And so, is it going to change? I don't think so. So I think the answer to this is to de-emphasize the importance of the awards for the Game Awards among people who like view the show and talk about this stuff. And there's a lot of other awards shows. There's, the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences does a show where they have developers vote on it and they present them at the DICE Awards. And it's and that's a really good show. If that's what you care about, that's what you should value. And then every website on the internet does their own awards and has really interesting conversations about these games. And that stuff is so much more valuable than watching someone get a trophy. So it's not ideal. It's not perfect. It probably should change. I don't think it's going to change. And oh well, if it doesn't, like I'm over it. It's fine. Like I'll just continue to watch it for the reasons that you're supposed to watch it, which is the commercials.
A lot of people tune in for the new reveals. I mean, Jeff himself has leaned aggressively into the new reveals, hyping up that portion of the show. Obviously, inherently, it's supposed to be designed to celebrate gaming, celebrate the best of the best, and what makes the medium special. As any award show, if we look at the Grammys, we look at the Academy Awards, a lot of those fundamentally are designed to do that. But again, if we're making parallels to those game show or those award shows as well, there's a lot of advertising involved. There's a lot of money involved, and there's a lot of amazing movies and amazing music that don't get mentioned in the conversations at all because people just haven't checked it out. They haven't listened to it or didn't get the proper time. And so we can have those conversations regarding the Game Awards and draw similar, comparisons and parallels. It's tough to say what the solution is to fix it because you're right. I think fundamentally this is not the best way. This is not the
Yeah.
way that the award show is set up, and the way that the panel's set up, and the way that the deadline is set up, and the way that certain games release. It's not ideal for discussing a game. Like you said, not everyone has time to play every single game. So,
Right.
so,
And like bringing in developers isn't necessarily going to solve it, right? Because they're busy at that time of year. They're all crunching to launch their games for the holidays. Like they're going to come in and play a bunch of games and then vote on the best games. Like that's why the Dice Awards happen so late next year. Like because they give developers a lot of time to play stuff. It just seems yeah, there's no one easy solution. And so yeah, and I honestly don't like, to me it's not even really a problem because you just decide like it's the Game Awards and it's like this thing that doesn't really matter all that much. Like it was just a show a guy created to try to make some money. Like that's all this is, everybody. Like that's okay, that's fine. I have no issues with that. But it's just a thing a guy made up, and we don't have to pretend like it has any sort of real honest like value. It's just, it is what it is, and that's fine. Like most of these things are just made up, and so yeah, like we don't have to pretend that the Game Awards really matter all that much. It's fun to discuss, and I think it's fun to like have these conversations, and I will continue to do that. But to me, it is the conversations that are the value. It's the conversations that we have that are spurred by the Game Awards that I actually enjoy more than actually what happens with the awards at the show. Oh, people think Forza Horizon 5 deserves to be in there. Why? Let's have that conversation,
yeah.
and that conversation's way better than even watching that team get a trophy. To me personally.
Yeah, that stuff is beautiful. I love hearing someone connect with the game and sharing why a specific game means so much to them. And we don't have to put the Game Awards as the end all be all for what is the game of the year, what's the best game of the year. When it comes to any form of art, it's so hard for any award show, anyone to decide what is the best, what is the most important piece of music or video game. It's the reason I stopped watching the Grammys, because every year I would get so pissed off. I was like, you don't get it. You don't understand like what else is out there. This is just an ad for these
Do it
really
for music. Yeah.
This is an ad for huge people who are just getting huger because people are putting money into them. Like that's not the best music.
And like when you do it for music, like music's so subjective, and it's like like you can have conversations with your friends that maybe have some meaning, but like watching a group of people decide what is the best music each year and then present it is silly. It's a silly concept, and it's same for games. And so yeah, like I said, Fonzarelli's like the TGAs are the thing that most people see as like the canonical awards for the industry. Yeah, I get that, but that again, that's all still made up. That's all just in our heads. That's stuff that is not real. We ascribe that value to those things, and it's something that they barely even earned. It was just Jeff Keighley told us it was the Oscars for gaming, and everyone went, yes, it's the Oscars for gaming.
Yes, it is.
And that was the end of the conversation. But whatever, yeah, like it definitely holds that position now, but that still doesn't mean it means all that much. It's just, I don't like, the game is sold really well. It has 10 million players. Are we really going to expect it to like sell better because it gets an award or something? I think that the fact that people are willing to go out there and like try to like argue its case is way more important than if it were to actually win some award somewhere. And it's going to win a bunch of awards. It still will, just not from the Game Awards. And yeah, I don't know. We've been gaming a long time. We were gaming before the VGAs existed. The VGAs were a joke almost the entire time that people did not take seriously. And now people take this a little bit more seriously. But even then, I don't think it's worth all this. It's not really worth getting too upset about. And if it does upset you, there's not much we can do to change it. He's probably not going to move it to a different time of year or anything like that. He's probably not going to change the process too much, and that's fine. Let's just I don't know, look elsewhere for validation is kind of how I would put it.
Yeah, right now we don't really have anyone else stepping up and trying to have an alternative, I guess, which a lot of people have been, I guess, requesting somebody to do.
I mean, those things exist. There's millions of things to choose from. So I don't know. I think it's just because it becomes like a big video. Like it was on TV at one point, right? It was on the Spike channel, and I think people just associate that with like authority. And there's just nothing that makes it more authoritative than anything else. It doesn't. Yeah, I mean, I guess the wider audience, like, do they even care about awards? Like, people don't care about the Oscars anymore, and the Oscars are, I think, inherently, I think, like almost subjectively more or objectively more valuable than like the Game Awards, right? Like the Oscars have been around for 100 years or something like
Yep.
that, and so like, and yet people don't care about the Oscars. Like it's just, it's something. I think this is just part of our growing pains. I think we will get over the Game Awards and not even really think about them in a few years. But right now, it just like feels like. If you have this sort of thing that presents itself as authoritative and it's not recognizing something that you think is canonically the best, one of the best games of the year, it can be frustrating, but it's just not, it's not worth it. It's not. There's other ways to support and promote and award these games and give them accolades. And let's just focus on that.
Yeah, it's important to celebrate stuff. Well, again, if we're making parallels to other industries, Star Wars, Marvel, a lot of people's most beloved, some of their favorite films, some of their favorite franchises of all time, they're never in the conversations for various reasons. Like you
Right.
mentioned the bait. There's the obvious Oscar bait, like movies
Right.
that come out at a specific window that are catered to a specific audience of heady people who want to inflate the value of something to make a point or make a statement here, and then your favorite movie doesn't get nominated. And it's the same thing every year in every single industry. Sometimes the thing that you love is not going to be nominated or win, and that's okay because you can express how you feel. I will give the Game Awards credit for having basically a separate award and a separate, a category that is audience catered. So your votes entirely dictate
Yeah.
that. So if you think that is more valuable, then put more stock into that. But you don't have to necessarily say, these are the 6 best games of the year. This game won, so now I'm going to go on Twitter and I'm going to use this game every time someone says, I like this game. Well, this game was
Yeah.
better. This game was Game of the Year 2021. I don't give a damn. I don't give a hot damn what was Game of the Year according to the Game Awards. But it is
Yeah.
interesting to have those conversations. I will say that.
Right, and I think this is like if you're like, hey, what is out there? I've always listened to the Game Awards or whatever. Go listen to Giant Bomb's Game of the Year discussion at the end of the year. That's the ideal, I think, right there. They talk it out, they hash it out. Everyone has to like kind of come and argue for the game that they want to choose, and then they have a bunch of interesting categories as well. It's not like stuff like best action game and best action adventure game, which is just, it feels so old fashioned, like so many of these categories, to the point where I think most of these categories are very boring and no one's like, I don't best action game versus best action adventure game. What is even the difference there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, so like there are people who are thinking about awards in interesting ways, and I think Giant Bomb's like one of the prime examples of that. So yeah, care more about the conversation than the award itself, and I think that'll make you a lot more happy because you get to join in the conversation. You get to have an opinion on that stuff and create value there for other people by saying, here is why this game is so important to me. And that's what if people want to have that conversation, I want to hear that. If you want to just create a little trophy and hand it to somebody, I will be less interested in that personally.
Yeah, take solace and take pride in the fact that your opinion on a game is equally as valuable as anyone else's. Your opinion on what is Game of the Year means as much as everyone else's. So we're all in this together there. I'm going to give a quick shout out to the 300 people hanging out with us, rocking with us. If you're enjoying the show, hit that like button, share it out, subscribe, all that other stuff that the YouTube algorithm needs, because that's how it fuels the internet. But before we move on to another topic here, what I want to do is I want to get Jeff's picks. If this is Jeff Grubb's The Game Awards 2021, what are your 6 nominees this year?
Yeah, so the top 2 are pretty easy. Top 3 are pretty easy. It's Metroid Dread, Hitman 3, and then Deathloop. And then after that, I think it's actually still pretty easy. It's Forgotten City, Forza Horizon 5, and then I think Ratchet and Clank is how it goes for me. There's some other games like High Fleet and Psychonauts 2 and a few others, and we'll see once I get done playing Halo where that's going to land. But yeah, for me, yeah, the top 6: Metroid Dread, Hitman 3, Forgotten City, Forza Horizon 5, Deathloop, and Ratchet and Clank. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Mine are Resident Evil Village, number 1. Resident Evil Village, It Takes Two, Forza Horizon 5, Death's Door, Tales of Arise, and Deathloop are kind of mine.
Awesome.
I was shocked that a JRPG made mine, if I'm being honest. I went into Tales of Arise just being like, all right, here we go. A big grand weeb adventure. Let's strap in here. Let's
People
see what
seem to like that game.
People
seem to like it a whole lot.
It's a slapper. I've played a lot of the Tales games, like Tales of Vesperia, great game. A lot of the ones that have come out recently have been fine. It's just anime nonsense for the
Right.
most part. And this is still anime nonsense. The story is, I
Didn't
loved it.
say Cruise and Blast. The Cruise and Blast is my top 10. And for Tim, I said Cruise and Blast will be my number 10 game of the year, no matter what. So even if like another game goes in the top 10, number 9 is going to go to 11, and Cruise and Blast is stuck at number 10, no matter what.
No matter what. It's Cruise and Blast. Throw some
Ride or
respect
die,
on the
number
name.
10 for cruising. Exactly. Cruising. Yes, we're going to be cruising. That's damn right.
All right, Jeff. So you talked a little bit about why everyone tunes in to the Game Awards, and that is less about the awards and more about the banger reveals, the new trailers, the release dates, the Gatorade Get Hype moments. So Jeff he's been teasing already for a while that Game Awards this year, bro, it's gonna have some hits. It's gonna have some big reveals. What he's saying stuff like, I can't believe some of the games I've seen, and obviously it's in his best interest to say things like that. But what I want to talk to you, Jeff, about is, what are your predictions and expectations? Let's go down the list here. Let's start with Xbox. Do you have any specific predictions or expectations for what Xbox might bring to the Microsoft Theater for the Game Awards 2021?
Yeah, I think this is probably where we see more Hellblade 2. I think they wanted to show more at E3. They couldn't get it ready in time. So I think, Hellblade 2. And then I think if I had to pick another game, I would say probably Avowed. I think back to around the E3 time when they were having internal conversations and like, hey, all right, so let's do the meeting for what we're going to show at E3. And Obsidian has the Outer Worlds 2, and they're like, wait, why are we showing that instead of Avowed? And then Obsidian's like, because you friggin' told us to do this. And they got really frustrated and mad. I remember that story and they're laughing about it. And so now it feels like, well, now they've had a bunch of months to like get ready something for Avowed instead. And maybe now it's the time to show that. Now, both those games are still pretty far off. So it's like, maybe it makes more sense to talk about stuff that's happening in 2022, in which case maybe that means those games don't show up here and we get Forza Motorsport 8, or we get something like another Redfall, like a Redfall gameplay trailer or something like that. But yeah, those are the kinds of the games that I'm thinking about right now. Hellblade 2 seems like a pretty, it seems like that's probably going to happen. I know they wanted to do that around this time of year, and as long as nothing weird has happened, it probably will end up happening.
Yeah, they revealed Hellblade 2 at the Game Awards. They revealed the Series X. There's a lot of excitement. People want more details. People want to see what Hellblade 2 is in terms of gameplay. So yeah, I've seen so many people on Twitter talk about, Hellblade 2 for Game Awards. Let's go. Let's make it happen. I'm a little torn because we got that kind of weirder update post E3 regarding Hellblade 2, and then basically saying, here's where we're at in terms of development. Here's our little scale. Here's our roadmap, and we have a ways to go. We have a ways to go before this game is done. So I'm almost wondering if they won't talk about Hellblade 2 here. If they're gonna save Hellblade the next time they talk about Hellblade 2, because we've already had two trailers more or less that haven't been gameplay. Yes. They've talked about Hellblade repeatedly, and it hasn't been gameplay. So I'm almost wondering if the next time that we see it, it will be a gameplay trailer. And I just don't know that that's right. That would be ready for the Game Awards.
That's possible.
We could get another CG trailer. They could just do another here's the theme of Hellblade 2. But the next time that we see it, I want it to be gameplay. And if that means it's not at the Game Awards, then let's wait. Avowed as well. I'm definitely expecting Avowed. I think Avowed, in my eyes, is more likely than Hellblade 2 because we haven't heard. We got the reveal a while ago, and we haven't heard anything. There's been no official update. There's been no trailer. There's been no tease. We know Obsidian is efficient as hell when it comes to developing games. That team knows how to develop. They are consistent. It's been a little while. We might be able to get some little slice, a little nugget of what Avowed is. Redfall as well, another game that I believe we could see a gameplay trailer for. We had the leaked stuff from a playtest, so clearly there is a playable build of Redfall. Redfall is coming out summer of next year. Let's see a gameplay trailer. Let's go. People are asking a lot about these projects and these code names and new reveals specifically. Do you feel like there's any possibility of any sort of brand new reveal from Xbox here?
I think if that was going to happen, it would the one that makes some sense to me is maybe 1 versus 100. Maybe maybe you come out and say, hey, after the Game Awards tonight, we're gonna have our first episode of 1 versus 100 or something like that. That would be really cool. Or or just say, hey, the first episode is gonna go live at this time. Meet us there. Let's make this happen. And it might be the right audience there, where you want to like to have a pretty mass audience. Say, hey, there's this fun trivia game that you can access through your Xbox or through the Xbox ecosystem wherever you are. And I don't know if it's ready or not yet. I know they've been working on it, but it's a smaller team working on it, so I don't know. But that could be cool. That would make some sense.
Chat, let us know if you would be hyped if 1 versus 100 dropped.
Yeah.
At the Game Awards. If that's more hyped than any sort of code name we know so far, 1 versus 100. Let's go. Also, they also announced that Avatar Theater's coming back to Netflix. Boom. 1-2 punch. Taking us back to the glory days, baby.
It's all going back. It's all coming back around. We knew it would happen eventually. Here we are again, Avatars, and back on top of the world.
Xbox back on top, baby. That's all it's all right, PlayStation. Are you expecting any bangers from PlayStation? Is Abandon going to be revealed? Is Silent Hill finally?
Abandon, yeah. You know what? Honestly, of all the stuff that could be announced, a Silent Hill game that Sony has some relationship with, that's the one that actually maybe could happen. Sony's just in a weird place, right? I think we know most of what they have coming in the immediate future. And if they have like big games that they want to announce, I think they probably would save it for E3 still for the most part. Yeah, I guess the Game Awards, maybe you could show almost anything there. So maybe they would show it there. But I think of all the stuff that is in the works, that Silent Hill game might show up here. Although I feel like you could say Silent Hill at any show from now to the end of the world.
We're gonna get it right one of these times, Jeff.
One of these times, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I've heard it's real, so I know that much. But whether or not it's going to show up at the Game Awards, who knows? But maybe.
It's what's really kind of added a lot of fuel to this speculation fire for Silent Hill for me is the fact that Konami was going to be at E3. Konami said they're going to be at E3. They backed out and said, "Actually, we need more time. We need more time." And so that tells me that they have something noteworthy.
Yeah,
it can't be Contra Mobile. They weren't going to roll up at E3 with Contra Mobile and be like,
and they weren't going to skip. Like if they were going to roll up with Contra Mobile, they would have just stuck with it even if it wasn't ready. They'd been like, all right, let's just announce this game that's going to come out and we'll delay it later. Fine, but we could tell people about it. If it's like a game that's like big and important, they want to get the announcement right. That's not Contra Mobile. That's something significant.
Yeah, I'm not going to say I'm expecting Silent Hill, but
no, but it could happen
at this point. Please God, let it happen. Can we just, I want to move past this chapter in my life, Jeff. It's one of those things where it's like,
I understand. Me too. I want people to stop asking about it. So yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. Let's see what it is. It sounds like maybe there's still 2 possibly in development. Let's at least get one out there. Please.
Right.
Please, let's get one out there. If it's the rumored PlayStation 1, which I'm still unsure of who would be developing that, sure, whatever. If it's the rumored Bloober Team 1, whatever. Let's just go, please.
Let's just see this thing. Yep, agreed.
Let's just do this thing. Final Fantasy 16. Do you think this is a good spot to give us a new trailer for that?
Yeah, maybe. Final Fantasy 16 feels like one of those ones that's like we've heard it's coming sooner than we expect. So like, why not at E3 and then didn't have it at E3 and then why not at the state of play that Sony had a little bit ago? Well, it wasn't there. So I mean, yeah, I feel like that would be a big deal game, and it's the kind of thing where you want Final Fantasy to be a big deal to a mass audience, the mass audience that is showing up to watch the Game Awards. So you show it off there. To me, it makes a lot of sense. It fits really well. I don't know, but it makes sense.
Yeah. And now you're one of the co-hosts of Last of the Nintendogs here.
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo's done some pretty cool stuff with Jeff historically in the past, Super Smash Bros. Related. Super Smash Bros. Saga has come to a close, so we won't have any more Get Hype. No Master Chief in Smash, so pour one out for that. That dream is dead. Outside of that, are you expecting any sort of big reveals or updates from the lovely folks at Nintendo at the Game Awards?
Yeah, I don't know. They also are like in a weird position where I think we know a lot about their next year. I mean, we know about Pokemon Arceus, and we know about Mario plus Rabbids 2, and there's a lot of stuff that they have coming next year that we know about. We know Zelda's coming like either late next year or early 2023 or something like that. And also they showed us a Zelda trailer at E3, a new one at E3. So are they just going to show another one here? Probably not. So like, what do they end up bringing? I don't know. To me, that this seems like maybe maybe this is where they announced the Metroid Prime 1 sort of remaster. Like that would make I think that would be a nice, good surprise for that. And you know, especially because Metroid Dread's nominated, right? It's like it all kind of fits. It's the kind of thing that I think, you know, Jeff Keighley could sell Nintendo on, being like, hey, let's bring that. Come on, let's make that happen.
Nintendo.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So yeah, a Metroid Prime, you know, and then maybe like you do a Metroid package, and you're like, okay, here's an update on Metroid Prime 4 with like a little bit of a new sizzle reel. We'll promise to fully reintroduce that game next year. In the meantime, here's Metroid Prime 1 remaster, and yeah, I think that makes some sense. So I would bet them to go Metroid heavy, and if they don't, I have no idea what they're going to show.
Nintendo's always the wild card. Like of all the companies, I'm always the most surprised by Nintendo. When they dropped that, I mean, it was kind of spoiled directly ahead of the announcement, but that big 3D Kirby game, I wasn't expecting that.
Right. Exactly.
That was recently rated, so maybe we get a release date for that. We know it's coming spring. What if they announce that Breath of the Wild 2, they give it an official name, and they also announce it's coming.
True. That could happen. Yeah.
They announce it's coming February 2022.
Yeah.
Throw it in the pile. Let's do it. Let's see how many games we can get in February 2022.
Right. If that game goes in February, I would expect a lot more games to move. Like everyone's like, Elden Ring's there. I'm like, listen, Elden Ring fans are just gonna play Elden Ring. Maybe Sifu moves up, and Sifu moves up. All right, that's fine. But if Zelda ends up going in February, that would be hilarious. That would be incredible, and I would like it would just be like a bomb going off in that month. But yeah, you're right. Let's just stack it up. Stack it up. Everything in February.
The Horizon team would have to be so annoying.
That would be
back to back. They put their release date out, and Nintendo's like, you know what? We like that date. That's a good date.
Come on,
because you got Elden Ring, you got Breath of the Wild,
keep getting away with it.
Horizon, my God, that month would be absolutely dumb. And then everything else, Evil Dead the game, another top tier banger that's gonna dominate everyone's discussions and discourse, also in February of 2022, but. Yeah, I don't know. Like you said, Metroid Prime, the rumor of the remaster has been kind of recirculated by so many different people who I trust to, you know, not say this just for no particular reason. So
it's in the works. It's coming next year. It is.
Yeah, it has to be revealed sometime soon. It's gotta. And Nintendo, I imagine, wants to be there in some capacity. And hopefully it's not just
they're very supportive of the show. Yeah.
Commercial. Like you talk about these commercials. We've seen literal commercials of these game shows where it's like, these are all of our Nintendo games out right now and you can play them. I'm like, come on, dude. Come on. You're already sponsoring.
I think they'll have more. Yeah.
You're already sponsoring Best Action Adventure Game of the Year from Totino's Pizza Rolls. I don't need a literal Nintendo commercial in this.
Yeah. Beyond those three though, it's you know, I don't know. I think maybe this is where we hear what's happening next with NetherRealm, which I still think is a Mortal Kombat game and not an Injustice game. I know people in chat are like, hey, what about Injustice? Listen, I hope I'm wrong. I know there's Injustice fans out there and they really want another one of those. I hope you get one. I hope I'm wrong. The things I've heard continue to be Mortal Kombat, not Injustice. I'm starting to hear story stuff about what's happening with Mortal Kombat. It sounds pretty awesome. It sounds like they're going to go some wild places with that. I can't wait to see it. Like they're just going to keep amping up the volume, the voltage. Be like, hey, we're at 11. Let's go to 21 and beyond. So yeah, they're really going for it, and that just means I'm not hearing any rumblings about Injustice, which again doesn't mean there's not one coming. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. But yeah, I think but still, this does make sense also for like something like that. Those games have huge mass appeal. And if they haven't been shown off yet, normally we would hear about one of these games by now. We haven't, so yeah, I think the Game Awards makes a lot of sense for a new trailer for one of those games. So yeah, and then you know other like WB games, maybe they show some more stuff from their games, but they just did DC
Fandom.
The Fandom, right?
Yeah,
so it feels like the timing on that might be pretty tough. So maybe Harry Potter, I guess. Maybe we see something from that Harry Potter game, but that's also in a weird place. So I don't know. Those are like that's like one of the big third party has a lot of stuff coming that we know about. Like if you're talking about like EA or Activision, what do they have? Not much. I guess maybe Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order 2 gets teased, maybe, but I don't know.
I just had a really terrible idea, and I hope I haven't accidentally willed this into existence. But what if Jeff Keighley brings out digital Rick and Morty on stage to announce that Rick and Morty are in multiverses?
Yes, it's totally feels like the kind of thing that does happen at these shows every year. So yes, and they just have like Justin Roiland in the back room doing his digital character movements and voices and stuff like that, and he has to hop between things to do the different characters. Yeah, that's totally possible.
If it happens, sorry, but it seems like something that now it's going to happen. It's 100%
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
maybe,
it's
maybe we get the trailer for the Mario movie. Maybe that's what happens
oh
here. That'd
damn,
be cool.
oh
That'd be
damn, dude.
Did they say when they're going to do that? I don't know if they said exactly. They said it's coming soon, so but probably not.
Dude, what? No. Rick and Morty on stage with Jeff Keighley and the Mario movie trailer.
Yeah, and Chris Pratt doing Mario voice. Man, that would also be like a bomb going off if we got to hear the Chris Pratt voice.
Oh, now okay. All right, this show's gonna be hype.
Do that trailer and the Garfield trailer. Let's get them all. Let's get it all out there. Let's see all the Chris Pratt voices. I want them all at once.
Dude, then they could tie in the fact that Garfield is coming to Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl because that leaked.
Yeah.
So boom, Jeff.
It's all happening.
We got this show planned out for you, dude. Pack it up.
You're welcome, Keely. Yep.
Next year,
go take a vacation. We've done this for you.
Next year, we're hosting our own Game Awards, and it's gonna have Chris Pratt, Mario, Garfield, trailer, Rick and Morty. Oh Jesus!
We know what we're doing.
Oh yeah, we're industry professionals.
All
right, I'm gonna get to a super chat real quick that I missed here. Faisal007 says, "With how gorgeous and highly texturized those indoor places of Halo can we give 343 from Halo and have them make a new third-person sci-fi game?"
Well, there's like word going around that they're working on another non-Halo game. I don't know how. I haven't looked into those yet. I'll ask around about that. I wouldn't be too surprised because I feel like, you branch off a small team, let them experiment with like the new tech, and that's how you kind of keep stuff feeling fresh. And I mean, they're doing that with the coalition, the coalitions. So, that feels like a possibility.
Yeah, it's one of those things where there's been conversations about Xbox pigeonholing certain studios into certain franchises, and now with Xbox Game Studios and these teams being brought on board to make creative new IP, there's no way that if a passionate team within one of these studios wanted to make a game that they could say no. Like you can't tell them no and let everyone else do it. Like that's going to make people
I think that's the real story of what's happening at Xbox right now is they are giving these teams room to breathe. They're also giving them time to do the stuff they need to do, and they're also giving them high expectations, and that's a good sort of like a studio to throw a studio into and say, hey, this is what we expect of you. We do expect these games to be very good, but we are also going to let you do your own thing to a certain extent. And if Halo is an example of that, if Deathloop is an example of that, they're heading in the right direction really quickly.
Yeah, looking at this year, I mean, obviously Deathloop, you could say it doesn't count. It's not Xbox Game Studios, but that is a team.
They paid for a delay. They paid for the delay for that. They paid for a delay for Psychonauts 2. They get credit for that stuff. Under their ownership of these games, they paid for the delays to make sure these games came out and were the games that they actually are. And that's not something like Sony was paying for with Deathloop or something like that. It's not something Bethesda was paying for anymore. Microsoft said that's okay. They get credit for it. So that's my position on it anyhow.
Yeah, we're looking at Deathloop. We're looking at Psychonauts 2. We're looking at Forza Horizon 5. We're looking at Halo Infinite. That hasn't dropped yet, but three of those big games from Xbox are in the Game of the Year conversations this year in a huge way, and that is wild.
I mean, there's going to be. I mean, if you are willing to look beyond the Game Awards, like 4 of those games are right. It's like
there's no way Halo Infinite multiplayer alone is
Halo. Right? Yes, exactly. So I mean, really strong year for them.
And that Xbox has talked a lot about this, about, making sure that Xbox Game Studios allows these teams to make the best games that they can, gives them the resources, gives them the tools to do that. We've heard them say that. We've heard them say that. And, there's criticisms that's just them talking. They have to say that because they don't have anything immediately on the horizon, and they want to make sure that there's messaging out there that they're doing something to fix it. They are not only saying that, but they are tangibly demonstrating that Xbox Game Studios and the games that Xbox puts out now are the best games that they can possibly be. And that's huge. That's hard to do for anyone. And for Xbox to come off this, really terrible, honestly. The Xbox One life cycle for the first half was really bad. Not a lot of support, not a lot of financial recognition for these teams. For them to come off of that and deliver in this way, it's hard not to celebrate that. Again, if you prefer PlayStation or Nintendo, that's fine, but you can't just ignore what Xbox is doing right now.
Yep. Yep, I agree. They're just I think the strategy is working, and if this is the confidence with which they're going to operate going forward, they're in a strong place.
It's a good time to be a gamer, Jeff, right?
Yep. I mean, that's the thing. We already knew Nintendo knew what they were doing. We knew Sony knew what they were doing. They're going to stick to their strategy. The question was just Xbox. And now that they seem to be in the right place for where they want to be, it is distinct from the way Nintendo and Sony are operating. So that makes it more interesting. And the fact that they pulled it out of the fire makes it interesting. That's why people talk about it so much. People are like, oh, well, Xbox gets so much more conversation right now. It's like, that's human nature. We know that these kings over here are going to continue like ruling their land. It was just like, is the Joker that was Xbox going to sort of figure out its situation? And they did, and that's a fascinating tale to tell. And just as people that want to talk about this stuff, it's hard not to like highlight that compared to the companies that did the thing that made them successful for the last 20 years continue doing the thing that made them successful for 20 years. It's less interesting. So
yeah,
it's just how it goes sometimes.
Xbox, there's been people saying, oh, why are people talking about Xbox so much? Nobody's talking about PlayStation. Nobody's talking about Nintendo online. And Xbox is just giving people reasons to talk about what they're doing every week. Every single week. Yeah. They want you to know what they're doing, and they're making sure you know what they're doing. Nintendo's historically been conservative and quiet with that. They every few months they'll say, here's something, here's what we're working on. Get excited, here's some new trailers, but they've never been one to update the community on a lot of things or interact or engage with their audience in a big way. And PlayStation also pretty conservative in that regards. Sony's a huge company. Right. Sony's a huge legacy company, so there's a lot of conservative business practices there. Xbox is the new cool kid on the block, and they want you to feel connected, and they want you to engage with Xbox and let you know that Xbox is there for you. And I'm blanking on that type of branding. What is that called now? What is that marketing where you put a personality to a brand?
Oh, no, I'm not sure. I was going to say grassroots, but that's not necessarily what you're. No, I'm not sure what it's called, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, it's been interesting, and I get they're trying to sell me things, but
oh yeah, of course, yeah.
If they're making it fun, and I feel like I'm getting money out of what I'm putting into it, let's go. Let's meme. Let's have a good time, and let's play some goddamn video games.
That's right.
All right, Jeff. Well, 2 hours have flown by, so there was one more topic we were going to dive into, but I'm going to cut it short. We're going to end it here. Dude, thanks so much. Every time you're on, it's a blast. Absolutely. Show flies by. Appreciate you. Appreciate everything you do. For all the lovely people tuning in. Where can they get a hold of you? Join the Game Mess Discord. Go to discord.gg/Game Mess. Come hang out with us there. We got an active Halo channel going right now. We're playing a lot of that. There's always great conversations going on in there. There's you can find like the links to all the shows and all the stuff we're doing. And then you can find me on GamesBeat, gamesbeat.com, where I do all my writing. And then I do on Giant Bomb on Thursdays. I do GrubbSnax, which is my like news and rumors show, and I do that where I bring some news each week, and then I answer the community's questions in an interactive way. That's for premium members only, so you can find like free versions of the show if you go to giantbomb.com. And then if you want to watch and interact, you go to giantbomb.com/upgrade. I believe the upgrade is on sale for the rest of the year. But yeah, I appreciate that you check that stuff out. And Miles, thanks for having me on. I really do love doing this show. It's such a good time. Yeah, no, you're an easy dude to talk to. Love having you on. And again, I appreciate everything you do. You're one of the people in the industry who's able to come out here, have fun, talk about video games, play video games, and that's the most important thing. So I greatly appreciate it. That means a ton to me. I'm gonna get to one super chat that I missed here. Sorry, Yodani, I saw you in here. Pipe Dream, Hideo Kamiya, father apologizes to Microsoft. Further apologizes to Microsoft at the Xbox showcase. He bows at Phil and announces Avalanche joins Xbox Game Studios, and they're making Scalebound. Stop it. Scalebound's dead. Let it die. It's never coming back.
God.
Just
Imagine,
let the
like,
dream
15 years from
die.
now, Scalebound comes out and it's game of the year, like Metroid Dread, like what happened with Metroid Dread, like yeah, because like
And then
Metroid Dread was like first got rumored like 15 years ago or something like that. It's like, and people thought it was never going to happen, then it did. Now people are going to treat Scalebound in the same way. That's silly.
They're going to
Silly.
clip that portion of the show out of context and be like, Miles
Yeah.
sucks. Miles is a idiot, dude.
Yep. We told him, we showed him.
We show
Yeah.
Scalebound's
Hey,
here.
Hey, it's not here until it happens. You're right until then. All right. So keep
Exactly.
holding out.
Yeah.
Yep.
If I can have a good 15-year run of being right, then I'll take it. All right. I'll take it.
Yeah, I want to see a meme of Miles standing over Scalebound's grave laughing. Like, yeah, that one where he's like doing the peace sign. from
Yeah.
the-
Oh,
the-
yeah, that's
the
right.
grave. Someone do that for me.
Okay,
Yeah.
beautiful. Yeah, let's make that happen. All right, everyone, thanks so much for hanging out. I will be back next week, Saturday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time with Rand Althor 19. Also, a quick note. A lot of people have been bugging me for a long time about this, and I kept saying I would do it, but I wasn't doing it. There will be an audio version of this show, starting with this.
right.
Jeff Grubb will be episode 1 of the audio version of Xbox Chaturdays.
Welcome to the podcast, everybody. The audio podcast. Hello.
Hello.
You can't-
It's
you can Google image search us. I'm not the old man one. I'm the younger one that looks handsome. and has hair.
So yes, it's happening. I know people every time I post the thread on Twitter, somebody like, "When's the audio version coming?" Like,
Yeah.
it is coming for real this time. For real, it's actually happening. This will be the first episode. So again, appreciate you
right.
being patient for the first 46, but we made it.
Yeah.
All right, everyone, we are going to get out of here. Have a good one.
Bye.